All right. First and foremost, we give all praises, all honor, and all glory to the Most High God Yahweh. We do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world calls Christ, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. It's your brother Chief Priest Allah's Auburn Lawyer, aka the Guerrilla Hebrew.
This Priest Assad.
Yeah, we back with part 2 of the reaction or the commentary between myself and the brother Garfield. We had in Harlem a couple weeks back from Sinetta TV. So all praise to the Most High. Getting ready to go back in on this. What is this at? Getting ready to go back in on this. Just wait a little second. Want everybody to make sure y'all like, sub, share, and super chat. Want everybody to kind of get a opportunity to come in here before we get started. All right, again, y'all make sure to like, sub, share, and super chat through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Get ready to go into this though. Part 2. Man, they gotta get on this damn water, man. They gotta come and get on SICARRI water. I don't know what the hell is going on. But yeah, man, without any further ado, I say let's get into it. We'll pick up right from when we left off at yesterday, in the spirit of the Most High.
Then you had certain plantations of the South that sued the American government for losses that they ensued behind them losing their slaves and losing what they call property. So we have to, from a legal standpoint, observe that and say, well, there's already been a fault acknowledged. In the reverse here, how is that going to play into a potentially inhibiting what we got going on with the payments?
Exactly. So this is exactly where we left off at yesterday. So that's the thing. If there's already been a fault acknowledged from a legal standpoint, it may disrupt the true people who are owed something getting paid out, because fault has already been acknowledged by the government in certain instances for losing slaves. And reparations were paid to certain plantation owners for the loss of slaves from the government, right? So that means the government has acknowledged a fault in taking slaves, which was regarded as property, from independent citizens, right? This can potentially put a hurdle or a damper in paying reparations in the United States and in all other countries. Again, like I said, in Haiti, you had an instance where you had one of the slave master's kids acknowledge fault on behalf of Haiti and put Haiti in an insurmountable debt to France early on in the history of Haiti in the 1800s. That happened. So that would play a part in any time when we go in and saying, France, you owe us. Them going, well, y'all already acknowledged fault. Just like I was talking about yesterday, you get an offender bender with somebody, you acknowledge the fault, their insurance company is now paying you. I mean, your insurance company rather is paying them. Why? Because you acknowledge that you're at fault. That can't be reversed. You're the one at fault. So these types of things are going to play a part in the, cashing out these cashing out these payments, man. If it comes to that, if it comes to that, right? All right, let's go.
But we're all for. Listen, I have no problem. Like I have ADOS.
Oh, Salakia. My fault. There we go.
A huge advocate. He came by a camp in Atlanta. You know,
this was y'all just seen the birthday bash video. The part 2 just premiered earlier on Public Enemies. If you ain't seen it, check it out after this, right? But it was on that same day of the birthday bash. There was a huge ADOS advocate brother that came by the camp.
Yo, I said, I'm not against it. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but hey, if they gonna pay, then they pay. I think no matter what they pay, it's not gonna be enough. And there's something else they're gonna have to pay in eventually, but we ain't even gotta talk about that.
That's right. Which is eventually, of course, with blood, with serving us, with building our kingdom and getting nothing in return for it. According to biblical prophecy. Give me Jeremiah 30, matter of fact. Jeremiah 30 and Revelation 13. Right, just to show that this is what they really owe, and this is what we're really looking for, and we're looking for the Most High God Yahweh to go and be the bounty hunter of this what we're owed, to be the repo man of what we're owed. He's gonna get this for us through his prophecies. Read that.
Jeremiah 30 and 16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured.
All they've devoured us. That's what they've done. So they shall be devoured. More than them cutting us a check, tendering us some of their money that's losing value by the second. Rather, I want to devour them. That's real reparations. That the tribe of Judah man could devour the American and British man. Right? That the tribe of Levi, that we can devour the Frenchman. You see? Read.
And all thine adversaries.
And what?
All thine adversaries.
All the nations. We're not just going to devour them. The Arab gonna get devoured. The Asian man gonna get devoured. The Hamite gonna get devoured. The Japhite gonna get devoured. See what I'm saying? Read.
All thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity.
They all got to go into captivity. That is true reparations. That all of our adversaries go into captivity the same way we went into captivity to them. They got to go into captivity. That is true reparations. But I'm not against them cutting a check. I want to cut a check now. Brothers from the tribe of Judah get a check. I'm for that. But I don't see it happening. But I'm not against it. By any means. Same way I'm not against nobody getting the tax return. Same way I'm not against nobody getting a student loan. Same way I'm not against nobody getting a job. Same way I'm not against nobody hitting the lotto. If the Most High is going to bless you and get that to you, fine. That still ain't enough though. Understand that. And there's prophecies here that are going to really give us enough through the spirit and power of the Most High. Right? But go ahead.
Revelation 13 and 10. It says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
There's no amount of money they can give us to replace this. They led us into captivity. They must go into captivity. Right? Read on.
It says, he that killeth with the sword must be killed with
the
sword.
They committed a genocide upon us. A genocide got to be committed amongst them. Read.
It says, here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
And us as being the saints, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, the 12 tribes of Israel, this is what we are to patiently and faithfully wait for. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. Right? Listen on that. You had another precept?
Yeah, I just had a point real quick too, though, because the scriptures do say a gift destroyed the heart. So one thing that could potentially happen with these reparations is the tribe of Judah gets complacent and gets the feeling that
even more complacent.
Well, yeah, that must be
even more complacent than y'all already is.
Right, and then get to thinking, just because the so-called white man gave you a Federal Reserve note, that he somehow is acknowledging that he feels bad and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? That's not like the brother was bringing out. That's not enough. A piece of paper with a slave master's face on it is not enough for
That's right.
millions of black people in America, specifically of the tribe of Judah, that have gotten raped, robbed, and stolen.
Stolen, free labor for centuries. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's serious, bro. That's
the biggest crime in human history.
There's truly not an amount of money that can make up for that. There's not. But if they're going to cut a check, cut a damn check, man. Get these brothers some money.
We have no problems with it, and even though I have an issue with the ADOS acronym, just because I feel like it's still not accurate, right? Because the Americas is Canada to Argentina, and all of these people have been through slavery. But hey, I take it, right? Brothers and sisters are certainly deserving of something, but like you said, we don't know how it's going to be. It could be a tax forgiveness. It could be free tuition. We don't know. A Fannie Mae debt forgiveness, you know what I mean? Things of that nature. We for it. I have no problem with it, you know what I'm saying? But we don't The only thing that I was in, and same with this brother, is when they still come with that divisiveness. Oh, you island niggas this. We all have, and a lot of people don't understand is how hard people in Central America, in the islands, South America, work just to come and live in a project building. You know, the same project building that you look at as hell, it's heaven to certain people that's coming from certain places, man. You see what I'm saying? So, and all of us particularly have, and that's where the 12 tribe chart come in, right? You can believe in it, you cannot believe in it, right? You cannot believe in the Most High at all. But if you look at it, like I say, if you're not a believer, look at it as a placebo, right? It's bringing all these different demographics together. All these demographics have their own uniqueness about them, but then we have a commonality. And one of the top commonalities is the hell that we've all been through collectively by this same oppressor, you know? But
and that's what I always have to say. Like, people who are staunchly against the 12 tribe chart, you're really crazy, because you really can't fight against it. And somebody who kind of opened me up, the brother Nasi, if y'all know Nasi Yashaville, he had a debate with Sarah Suit and Seti some years ago, destroyed him through the spirit of the Most High. Just totally destroyed him. Anyway, what I was gonna say is, you know, he said he's not even messianic. He don't believe in the New Testament. Don't believe in Yahweh Shai. Didn't come out of One West or anything like that. But he said, I don't have an issue with the 12 tribe chart, because I look at it like, look what it's doing. Look who all these demographics is bringing together under the righteousness of the Most High. So why would you even fight against it? You know what I mean? And like I said, especially if you don't believe in the Most High at all, or that's not that big a deal to you, what's the problem with the African American, the Jamaican, the Haitian, the Dominican, the Puerto Rican, the Mexican? What's the problem with all these people coming together and uniting under one cause, with one set of morals, with one goal, with one aim, etc.? That's the greatest and most miraculous thing you've ever heard of. Why would you fight against that? This is exactly and precisely what the people on that sign need. And it's, you know what I mean? So, but it's good, but that's where it comes into, where you have the tribe of Judah. The tribe of Judah has a unique struggle. The tribe of Issachar has a struggle. The tribe of Zebulun has a struggle. The tribe of Levi has a struggle. The tribe of Benjamin has a struggle. We all have a struggle, and they're all related, but there is a uniqueness to it, each, that gives us to where we are our own tribe that's a part of this nation. This nation has this hell that all of us went through by these same Edomites, by these same white people. But then each of us as tribes have the unique thing. The tribe of Judah don't have to worry about an ICE raid. You see what I'm saying? But all the other tribes, we got to worry about ICE. Well, Judah, Gad, and Reuben ain't got to worry about ICE. The whole rest of that chart, we got to worry about an immigration rate, man. You see what I'm saying? So there's that uniqueness there. But we all have this collective same thing. We all were raped, robbed, murdered, oppressed, enslaved, etc. by the same group of white people. That's the key, right? The indigenous peoples of this place that were here when they brought us over here, that you call Latino, Hispanic, Native American, they were enslaved. They were stolen from. So we all have this commonality. And that's something too, when people talk about the Native Americans, people have this misconception in their mind that all Native Americans get a check. Not even half of Native Americans get a check.
Hell no.
Not even half. Right? The main Native Americans getting a damn check are the 5 so-called civilized tribes who have been infiltrated by the white man, especially the Cherokee. We know that already, right? We know the million white people claiming to be Cherokee. But, so not even half of Native Americans. I want to say there's 900 Native American tribes. Oh, no. There's 900 Native American tribes, but there's only 500 recognized Native American tribes, and not even all 500 of them get a check. A lot of people don't even understand how a Native American check works. It's pretty much the same as getting HUD and Section 8 and food stamps and Cash 8. That's literally what it's the equivalent of. It's not actually different.
Probably worse than that.
And if you see how they live, the majority of Native Americans on these reservations, they're living on a much lower standard than you're living in your hood. It's just a fact. And a lot of times, if a particular reservation does not have a casino, they're not even getting any money, because that's how they get the money. Essentially, a casino will come to a reservation and loan the reservation millions of dollars in exchange for them to be able to build a casino and profit off the casino. See what I'm saying? That's usually what happens. So there's a lot of misconceptions about how Native Americans even get paid, right? But I want to keep going. You got a point out?
No, it's all right.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you brought up the 12 tribes. I'm going to bring up the 12 tribes and I'm going to bring up DNA in a minute. Now, your father is a black man, yes, right? African American?
Haitian.
Haitian. All right. Now, your father's DNA, because you're born with 23 chromosomes.
Yes, sir.
So one of your father's Y is in you right now.
Exactly.
All right. Now, for those who don't understand DNA, his father's father go back all the way 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Because your father, I don't know if you ever did a DNA test or not, more than likely he's E1B1A.
Exactly.
All right. E1B1A is over 40,000 years old, according to what the scientists said. They have the last common ancestor that would have evidence they have goes up to 14,000 years ago. Right?
Right. So like he said, scientists say it's 4,000 years old, but the hard evidence doesn't go back more than 14,000 years. I need everyone to pay close attention to what he's getting ready to say, right? Because some of this stuff I was unfamiliar with, so I've gone back and researched. But everyone make sure they're paying attention to the numbers and the facts that are being, the facts and the alleged facts that are being propagated here. So just pay close attention.
It's primarily a West African DNA.
Exactly.
Which is true, right? For the most part, they say E1B1A is West African DNA. The average so-called black man in the Americas, be it North America, the Caribbean, South America, is E1B1A on their Y, meaning from their patrilineage, their father's lineage, right? Is what they say, right? So the E1, for those of y'all don't understand, E1B1A is a haplogroup. Haplogroups basically are groups of mutations that have mutated from the original, who they say is the oldest father of human beings. So they've mutated over time, gone different places, migrated, etc. And because of those mutations, you have groups of people who share similar mutations, and they're classified in different ways. West Africans in particular are classified under E1B1A, right? For the most part, you have E1B1A and you have E1B1B. But we'll keep going.
I know One West, I know a lot of these camps teach that you go by the father.
Exactly.
So this is why he's coming from this perspective, because he knows and he understands that from the Hebraic tradition, we establish our lineage by our father. Our pedigree is established by our father. Him understanding that, he's engaging me with this in mind.
So if your father is a West African, how do you connect yourself to ancient Israel from a genetic point of view? And why I stress it is because a lot of people think DNA is like a play science. The test that they do is called CAPS. CAPS is the same test they do if they're doing a paternity test. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
It's the same test for paternity, same test for genealogy. For those who don't know, it's called CAPS. CAPS. Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Now, this test gives us a geographic history of your father, right? I did over 7 tests, all right? And all my tests lead me back to West Africa. I'm either 80%, the lowest, or I'm 90%. Living DNA, which is a DNA test a lot of people don't do, they have me at 90% West African.
So what do you mean by living DNA is having to do with people that are alive, and that's what has to do with a lot of this. We're going to get into this in a second, which is called Y chromosomal atom. But when you deal with this Y chromosomal atom stuff, everything is being measured by people who are alive today. And that's important to understand for part of this. It's about people who are alive today and where they live. What does that mean? Or why do I bring that up? Because people who are alive today and where they live does not necessarily reflect where they came from. Right? Again, people who are alive today and where they live does not necessarily reflect where they came from. If you did a living DNA test on the majority of people who currently inhabit what's called the United States of America, they'll be predominantly what? European, right? Now, if we had a total apocalyptic societal collapse and 300 years down the line, after things have been forgotten, information has been lost, etc., society reemerges and they did these same tests, they would say that white people are the original Native Americans. Why would they say that? Because the majority of people in America are European today, right? And they would come to a faulty conclusion because they be looking at data as who was there at this time versus who originated where. These things are important, right? You had a point?
Yeah, and that's, it's just real faulty to look at it like that, because we see all throughout history different nations and groups of people migrating or leaving certain areas that they once inhabited due to various reasons, whether it be conquest, somebody comes and invades and causes the people to move to another place.
Some people just want to up and leave just to do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's like the three, I think off the top of my head that I can think of, the
famine, war,
adventure, you know what I'm saying, exploration, things of that nature. So to negate that is, I think, really irresponsible.
It's a fact.
Said E1B1A. Your father, as you said, he's Haitian, more than likely E1B1A. I can trace my roots back to ancient Israel because the DNA markers that's in that region for that.
Now watch this. Pay close attention to what he said right here. He said he can't trace his DNA back to ancient Israel because of the markers, right? The markers that are in that region. Pay attention.
Time period don't match with E1B1A.
Of that time period. Markers, region, time period. Keep that in mind.
All right. How do you genetically, I know you could show me in scriptures right now. You could say, find me a precept right now, and you get a damn precept in 2 seconds. Am I lying? All right.
Or y'all is a stone face. He's not lying, right?
So now, without using your biblical text, you know what?
Look at Nakawan, man.
Biblical text if you want. It don't matter. How do you trace?
But he's asking a specific question, which is why I don't go to scripture. All day people see us go to the scripture, so he's asking about genetically, right? So I'm going to answer according to that, right?
Yourself, seeing that you're saying your father is Haitian, and I believe you 100% that he's Haitian, how do you trace your roots, genetically speaking, to ancient Israel?
Well, the issue is with the genetics is this. E1B1A we know is West African, so that's part of the battle, right? I do not believe, I'm not of the school of thought that there is genuine genetic results of the ancient Israelites represented. I don't believe that. So because I don't believe that, I'll take E1B1A to West Africa, but then I want to go off of scripture and history. You see what?
Now I said off of scripture and history. So we're going to stop there. Also, what I want to bring up is this. Garfield, though he doesn't blatantly admit it, is not of the school of thought that there is any genuine ancient Israelite DNA that has been recovered and tested against. He's not of that school of thought whatsoever either. Because he believes that after the Babylonian captivity that the Israelites never went back. He's of the school of thought that the Israelites never went back to Israel, right? Did you hear him on that? Did you watch this, Hassad?
I didn't see it.
Okay, okay. So basically, what he's saying is, during the time of Esther, what happened? Esther 8, right? What happens at Esther 8?
You're talking about when we're under the Persians?
Under the Persians, it says many became Jews. Remember that? Mm-hmm. So he's saying that the people who went back, Second Temple,
is those converts?
Are all, he believes they're all entirely Persian converts, right? So even he believes that there's not a sample, there's not a way to even get a genuine ancient Israelite sample. So there's nothing to run it against. So genetically, you can't substantiate who an ancient Israelite is through genetic testing, because there's no genuine individual who you can run the test against. Even the oldest Israelite remains that you can find, he will contend are not even Israelites. They're Persian converts. So if that's the case, there's no way to determine genetically. So he's asking me a question that he doesn't even believe can be determined, right? Which is why we got to pay attention. And sometimes, you got to re-examine things and understand the totality of an argument, and then also analyze other things that are being said. And now I'm going, wait a minute, he doesn't even believe that this can genetically be determined, right? Which may be the point that he's leading to.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Which is like, oh, y'all are just going off of faith. And we don't have a problem going off of faith. But like I said, we utilize genetics, but genetics is not what we live and die by. We have a formula, and our formula is made up of different things. And what is the preeminent thing in all of our formula is the prophecies of the Most High, because they come to pass. They happen. They're the most reliable thing ever. So that's the number one thing that we bank on, is prophecy through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? Because it's the word of Yahweh, and the testimony of Yahweh Shai that he is the Messiah is the spirit of prophecy. So these are the things that we number one bank on. Then we couple this with history. We couple this with genetics. We couple this with anthropology, various things. And this is how we come to these conclusions.
And so going off of what I've heard out of certain, i.e., let's say, Dakwa, right? A shot brother, PhD, the Africans that wrote the Bible, things of that nature. Different accounts from certain West Africans attesting to or suggesting that they migrated from east, right? Even, let's take it like this, right? When do we see civilizations popping up in West Africa?
Civilizations,
Now watch this. Watch this.
that's kind of hard. I'm going to tell you why. Because one of the oldest is the Nok culture, which goes back later. But what they use to measure culture is metal, iron. Iron metallurgy has been in West Africa for over 3,000 years.
Now, iron, right? Understand something. He said this is what they use to measure culture, right? Watch this. Now, his man, or used to be his man, you used to be down with him, or used to be a part of Dagger Squad. Rob Bourne, I had a dialogue with him at the Sonetta reunion a couple years ago, and he was talking about what they use to measure civilization. Now, he said they use metal to measure culture, right? Civilization, the stage of human social and cultural development and organization that are considered most advanced. So it has nothing to do with metal, how you measure civilization. Now, again, what I asked him.
This is the Nok culture.
When do we see civilizations popping up in West Africa?
When do we see, I asked a very specific question. When do we see civilizations popping up in West Africa, right? He says this.
Civilizations, that's kind of hard. I'm going to tell you why. Because one of the oldest is the Nok culture, which goes back later. But what they use to measure culture is metal.
He said what they use to measure culture. I didn't ask him about culture. I'm asking him about civilization, right? Now, the utilization and cultivation of metal is tied to civilization to a degree, but it's not just about that. Again, it says the stage of human, social, and cultural development and organization that is considered most advanced. So we're talking about a group of people who are socially and culturally and developed and organized at the highest level that you can be organized, right? Be it a monarchy, be it a democracy, being a republic, being in a confederacy, all these this is civilization, right? So I'm not asking about metal. So notice he says that, and there's a reason he answers it like that, because the point that I'm going to make, and I'm still going to make the point, but I just want everyone to make sure that it's clear. There's a reason I asked him that, and the brother is intelligent, so he knows why I asked him.
Iron metallurgy has been in West Africa for over 3,000 years.
Now that very well could be true. I'm not disputing that there were groups of people that populated West Africa, but I would say, and I will contend from a historical perspective, that it was not Salakia, that it was not vastly populated, and that's why we don't see civilization popping up until much later in time. Because the people, or the way that civilization was developed there, was through people who migrated there from east. And this is attested to by various West African sources. This is why I brought up Dakwa, who's a PhD scholar from the Akan tribe, who attests to the fact that his ancestors are the Israelites. So not only does he have a belief, but he also has a doctorate degree that validates his historical findings and his beliefs and the theory that he's propagating. Right? So we're not just all kooky and spooked out. PhDs also believe this who are from Africa. Right?
Right, as a matter of fact, up to 5,000 years.
Now look, it's up to 5,000 with the 5,000.
Yeah, that's something I always notice that these intervals are like
they are like crazy, right?
Yeah,
Here's my point though, and here's what we have to understand why we have to be critics of the white man and the things that he tells us. Here's why. I'll explain. Because the white man is going to tell you that you were in a region for 5,000 years, but you couldn't develop a civilization.
That's it. Yeah, his ass was here for 400 years and built this.
You see what I'm saying? But it took you 5,000 years for the development of a civilization. That or it took you, Salakia, it wouldn't have been 5,000 if it went back to 5,007. So it took you like 4. You know what I'm saying? 3,700 years. That is an insult to the intelligence of your ancestors. to say that it took them 37 years to build an advanced civilization. That's crazy. See what I'm saying? But let's keep going.
What happened is they found evidence of the writing like in Nigeria, 3000 BC. That looks like the script that they have today. So that means the people have been there for a while. That's before Israel even existed. So, with that being said,
now could there have been people in Nigeria prior to the Israelites migrating there? I have no problem with that. And also other people came with us that weren't just Israelites. You forget we came out with the Canaanites. I don't have an issue with that, right? But why isn't a society and a civilization being developed there before a millennia ago? That's my question. Why did it take them that long to develop? Why are they the last people to develop civilization? If we're the greatest and smartest and we're all these things, why are we the last people on the civilization train? West Africa is the last place civilization really sprung up. Why? That's my question. Why? You're letting the white man tell you that your ancestors were unintelligent, as opposed to you saying, you know what, my ancestors migrated here from somewhere else, and when we got there, we developed civilization quickly.
I don't know. I don't want to say about popping up cultures.
He don't want to say. He knows exactly what I'm getting at.
Because West Africa has a vast culture that we haven't really researched yet. But
now there's culture that hasn't been researched.
I don't want to give
And things change. I saw a little bit of your sit down with the Egyptologists, and it's what people forget too. Things change, right? Scientific, it's updates that happen, and we have to make sure that we're on top of those things.
And it's important that I say this as well, because as we're going to see when we get into this Y-DNA stuff, things change. They've discovered, like right now, who they say Adam is, who they say the Y chromosome Adam is. You know when they discovered him, Hassad?
The Y chromosome for Adam.
The Y chromosome Adam.
What they say?
The one they have now. It's ever changing, because what they're saying is this isn't Adam, but this is this person that we found. Everyone, or the majority of people that are alive now, descend from him. Right? So they're not saying this emphatically is the first man. They're saying that this is everyone alive today, or the majority of the people that are alive today come from this nigga. Right? You know when they found him?
What?
6 years ago. Before that, it was somebody else. You see what I'm saying? So this is an ever-changing idea, right? And we're going to read some of the flaws of it, but I'm going to keep going with this.
I hear people sometimes regurgitating outdated stuff in the community, Hebrew Israelites, and different forms of content. They're regurgitating old information.
Yeah, you have Israelites that do it. You have Kemetic school of thought. You have all kind of people that regurgitate outdated scientific information. They're not on top of. That's why there was a time period where you have Architect, a real black atheist. He was banging on certain things about the Bible. And now, if you run him today, he's not doing it. Why? Because he's on top of the science. So in 2018, 2017, the scientists start figuring out what? You know what? This Bible, it's actually kind of consistent with creation. I mean, you know what I mean? Through how the world starts. And it's just kind of being told from the perspective of these specific people that we don't really actually have a problem with what's being said here. Like, for example, that humans were created on the fifth day and came out of the water. See, when you look at it from the Christian perspective, you look at Adam and Eve as the first two human beings. But if you look at it in truth of what it's saying, you see human beings be created on the fifth day, and that's in total harmony with what science says. See what I'm saying? Coming out of water. Same way a child is born out of water, right? So, but you have to be on top of that. So because he was on top of that, he let go of certain arguments that he's making because he understands science, new discoveries, and things of that nature. Right? And like Brother Ariel said, we have to dispute the way science dates things. And we're going to go into some information right now. We're going to some powerful information, the spirit of power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua in a second, right? About the problematic nature in which things are dated, right? Because the brother referenced various dating methods and things of that nature.
I check the books. That's out now. They know better than that now.
For example, one thing is saying that the Hebrew people come from the Habiru or the Apiru people. I know the individual. I met the scholar, Dr. Ellen Beret, that introduced and propagated that theory, and that theory been outdated and has been checked. Oh, no, Salakia. I met one of the scholars that made that theory outdated. that these Hurrian Abiru people came from Europe and are the Hebrews. No, that's been out. That was a theory that existed, but there are so many flaws in it. Number one, that the Abiru language was a language isolate, not related to any other language. Yet you're saying that this is where the Hebrew language comes from. These are very problematic theories. But there was a point in time where people believed that in the 80s, right? But you have people who are running around in 2019 still propagating that madness. Table of Kings, man. Table of Kings. That's a good one, right? But they still propagating that madness, and it's been debunked. It's been refuted, right? So you got to watch that. You got to make sure that you're not propagating outdated scientific theories, right?
No, let me add something very important here to what the brother is saying. Hold on, about genetically, I'm going to help him out. I'm going to help my brother out. What I'm going to say is this. Whenever we hear DNA, we say, one, it's the white man's science, until our uncle gets let off from a crime he was doing for 30 years. We say, oh.
Which is true. DNA is a true science, but its accuracy gets lost the further back you go. That's all I got to say about it. And if you pay attention to it, you can see that.
DNA is good now. I love DNA because uncle is home. All right? But ladies and gentlemen, let me break this down to you very carefully. Inside of us, we have an X and Y chromosomes. We have our mother and we have our father. The paternal line, the E1B1A that he has right now, and the E1B1A I have, we can trace that back to a common ancestor. And that is based on the sequence in the DNA that they find within our own system.
Now, mind you, put a pin in that. The DNA sequence that they find. DNA sequence. Put a pin in that.
That means they go back to 14,600. There's a calculation that they do. But the point that I'm trying to make is the sequence is in your DNA. Trillions. You see, if they took your DNA out, they could wrap it out. You would see how long it would be, longer than this park. But the trick with DNA is this, that it's a science that we run from. If a girl claims that you impregnated her and you know it's a lie, you gonna run to a DNA test immediately, because you know what? That's not mine. I never slept with nobody. Da 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 da. Whatever. Especially if it's your wife too, saying, What's going on here? You got to show proof.
Or if you've been accused of rape.
Of rape and everything. All right. So now, listen to this carefully now. The markers for E1B1A, we know where it parted from because it came from the east.
Y'all hear that? Hold on. I need y'all to make sure y'all hear this.
Everything. All right. So now, listen to this carefully now.
He even say listen carefully. Y'all got to listen carefully to this. Watch this.
The markers for E1B1A, we know where it parted from because it came from the east.
It came from the east. Wait a minute. So hold on. Now his contention was he's E1B1A, and that doesn't go back to Israel, right? But admittedly, it comes from the east. Where is Israel in relation to West Africa? It's east. So even according to what he's saying, that's why we got to pay attention to what these people say. Even according to what he's saying, E1B1A is Israelite. E1B1A comes from that region where the Israelites come from, right? But let's keep going.
An oral tradition saying that we come from the east. It's not a lie.
That's right. The oral traditions of West Africa say we come from the east. The oral traditions of the people of the Americas say they came from the east. Yeah, the Israelites. See what I'm saying? The Bible says what? We came from the east. Like the brother said, it's not a lie. Why we got to pay close attention, right?
Because E1B1A parted two ways. It went to South Africa and it went to West Africa.
It went to South Africa, went to West Africa, right? Our people went through, some went down south, right? That's scriptural. Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, in the southern part of Africa, the Limba tribe, etc. That's in the southern part of Africa. Then we go west, right? So what he's saying is even consistent with what we're saying, right? This is why you got to sit back and listen. Sometimes you're not seeing me just cursing people out and freaking out all the time because I'm a comprehensive listener through the Spirit of the Most High. Because I know the Bible says what? Understand first and then rebuke. I must fully comprehend what somebody else is saying before I attempt to rebuke or refute it or disagree with it, right? Certain things you just not even going to, it's not even a point. I don't disagree with that. I'm not even going to argue with that, right? But if you're listening closely and analyzing what he's saying, it actually coincides with what we're saying, right?
Right? So now, the oral tradition, there's a book called Black Enslaved, The History of the Curse of Ham. It's the latest information, upgraded information. There's a gentleman by the name of Robin Law. He's the one that studies oral traditions of all African cultures. They consider every African culture that says that they come from Mecca, Arabia, Israel, or Canaan to be mythology or legend. And
he says they consider it to be mythology or legend. But what did he just say? Hold on, y'all. Now it's mythology or legend, but what did he just say?
Information upgraded two ways, right? The tradition saying that we come from the East is not a lie.
Wait, it's not a lie, but now he's going on to tell me how they consider it to be a myth. But you just said we come from the East and it's not a lie. We got to pay attention, y'all.
They said that they have relatives that's relatives with our legend, and I'm gonna tell you why. In the Yoruba culture, they said they come from Mecca. They said that they have relatives that's relatives with Muhammad, right? So now, when you ask a Yoruba now where you from, he'll say Israel. Some of them.
Yeah.
So
Exactly, because they acknowledge the fact that they're Israelites from the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Asher.
he was from Arabia a couple years ago.
But why do they want to say they're from Arabia? Because they were Islamicized. So at times, just like when people want to say make Muhammad black and things of that nature, if you're up under that religion, you're going to make that happen. We are totally rejecting religion. So why would we do that, right?
Let me switch. The problem with the oral traditions is this. The white man came in. Remember, everything is oral. The white man, the cracker went in, Sonetta, and when he went in, you know what he did? He recorded. I'm sorry, I'm jumping too far. I'm letting the Muslims off the hook. Yeah. Fuck the Muslims, by the way.
Well, I agree.
Because they worse than the crackers.
Now, I don't agree with that, but I certainly agree with the previous statement.
After today.
I don't think anyone's worse than the cracker we have today.
Over 22 million Africans. We let them off the hook all the time.
People do forget about that, right? Now, the majority of them were not Israelites, but they also did travesties to Israel as well and co-conspired with Esau in our enslavement. And they have been doing this for thousands of years.
Says the Muslims are recording the oral tradition. So they're recording it, listening to you tell a story. Yo, I came from Harlem and such, and they'll mix it up and say the God guided him. Allah guided him in Harlem and such, to make it sound official. The Christian now come in, white man, I could write, come in, he comes in and write it, but Christianize the oral tradition now from the Islamic way. So now it sounds more Christian, and then what happened is we as black people read the story of Exodus, so we said we the Israelites.
Why? Because it matches up with us. Like if there's nobody who could relate to that story more. That's why we say we're the Israelite. We read Exodus and we say, damn, this is us. This sounds like us. How can it coincidentally sound so much like us? He said all that to say, well, we react to this and we say we're the Israelite. I mean, damn, it sounds exactly like us. Are you going to chalk that up to coincidence? A lot of people who are Pan-Africanists and, things of that nature, if you don't believe in the Most High, they 9 times out of 10 believe in the quote-unquote ancestors. Well, is it far-fetched to believe that our ancestors left an ancestral record that would help us identify ourselves later on? Is that far-fetched? Right?
We the ones under slavery. We the ones the Bible is talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
We are the Israelites. So that's where it started from.
You're right. That's where it started from. That's where the awakening started from. And then what happened from there? More and more evidence, prophecy, history, archaeology, etc. was unearthed that coincided with this. Give me the earth help the woman. All praises.
I also got that Timothy too.
Just wait on that. Wait on that.
This is of course my damn phone wants to act up. Right. Okay. Revelation 12 and my bad. All right. Revelation chapter 12 verse 16. And the earth helped the woman And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of
That's
her mouth.
right. The earth is helping the woman right now. The earth, the history, the archaeology, the anthropology is giving us even more information to substantiate the belief in faith. Give me everything start with, you know what I'm talking about? With faith come by hearing?
I think so.
Like how faith is basically the foundation. And we don't have a problem saying that we're faith-based. We're going to be saved through our faith. Faith for the grain of the mustard seed would enable us to move mountains. You understand what I'm saying? Go ahead.
Romans 10:17. So then faith cometh by hearing.
Faith cometh by hearing. So we read Exodus and we go, wait a minute. We critically analyze it and go, this sounds a lot like what we're going through now. We got to be those people. Faith coming by hearing. So that's the first. That's where it starts. Faith coming by hearing. We hear it. We have faith in it. Read.
God, it says, and hearing by the word of God.
See that? We hear the word of God and we believe it through the faith. Then everything else comes after that. Right? Give me, receive ye the Holy Spirit through works or by faith.
Okay.
That's Galatians.
Mm-hmm. All right. Galatians chapter 3 and verse, it's early, I think. 2. It says, Galatians chapter 3, verse 2. This only would I learn of you. Received ye the Spirit by the works of the law or by the hearing of faith?
See that? We receive the Holy Spirit by the hearing of faith. Then when the Holy Spirit works with us, we're guided to other information. All right? Go ahead. Or that's it on that? Come. All right.
Because of the biblical text. But the justification of slavery was because of the Talmudic people talking about we are black people, we're cursed because of Ham.
Yes, that's true. But we're looking at it from a different perspective, that we're not the Hamites, or we're the Israelites, and the curse that came upon us was through our disobedience to the law of the Most High versus the inevitable curse that's on Canaan. Canaan hadn't even seen his curse yet. Canaan won't truly see his curse until the kingdom of heaven. Pursuant to Zechariah the 14th chapter, that's when Canaan is really going to understand. Not prior to that.
It justified the Muslims by enslaving us, and then the Christians followed through. So now, with that being said now, with the oral traditions out the way,
but we can't put the oral traditions out of the way. We can't. It's not the African thing to do to discredit the oral traditions of our tribes. If you want to look at this from a purely African state, which a lot of these guys will identify that they're African and they're, all pro-African. If we're pro-African, we cannot discredit the stories of our ancestors. All we have is the stories of our ancestors. The Bible is the stories of our ancestors. You see what I'm saying? So we have to understand when it's part 2, yeah. It's part 2, Yeshaya. We have to understand when we start to think like white people, right? Let me repeat. We have to understand when we start to think like white people. To say that your ancestral oral traditions are irrelevant is to think like a white person. I repeat, to say that your ancestral oral traditions are irrelevant is to think like a white person. When you sit down with grandma and grandma tells you stories of your history, tells you stories of the things that she went through, would tell you the stories that were passed down to her through her ancestors, right? Through her grandparents, etc. Do we say that that's not true? No, right? That's grandma. That is. Those are jewels that you're getting, right? And you take those and you keep them in your mind and you pass them down to your children, right? Only a white person would say that that's irrelevant. I was just sitting down telling someone today about my grandmother telling me about stories of the black side of the street and the white side of the street, right? But let these revisionists in America just unwrite Jim Crow out of the history books. Which they want to, right? And I go, well, my grandma told me, or my kids, let's say my kids have kids. And they go, yeah, well, my great-grandma was telling me about the black side of the street and the white side of the street. And we're like, no, that didn't happen. The historical record says there was never segregation, right? See, this is when you start to think like a white person. We can never discredit the stories of our grandparents, man. The experience that they had. And when you say we're going to take oral tradition and put it out the way, we have now done what the white man wants us to do. And now they're in total control of the narrative. See that, Amawan? You had no idea, right? Your great-grandfather was a part of the Mexican Revolution, right? Are you going to now say, oh, no, he wasn't? I don't have the record of that. Where's his registry in the Mexican army? You know what? So I can't go off of that. Nah, man, we got to go off of what our families passed down to us. That supersedes anything the white man going to tell you. That's your history. You and your people are the curators, are the vanguards of your history. The white man is not. So that is what we have to understand. Give me Proverbs 5. Waters out of your own cistern.
Proverbs 5:15.
That's right, Amawan. Go ahead.
Drink waters out of thine own cistern.
We drink waters out of our own cistern. The information that we internalize comes from our own people. It doesn't come from other people. So if I know that members of a particular West African tribe were put on a boat and brought to this side of the world, to specific locations, be it the United States, be it the islands, whatever, and those same individuals have an oral tradition that exists that says they came from Israel, then I read the prophecies that identify and fit us to a T. What am I going to go with? The white man's disagreement with that? The same man that put us in slavery and has lied to us throughout the annals of history and has misled us? And at one time propagated a theory that was scientific proof that suggested that black people were more submissive and fit to be slaves? They propagated this as a pseudoscience at one point. Or should I believe what my family has passed down? That's the question. I'm going to tell you right now, right? Let me tell you something in Haiti. In Haiti, there are so many stories of things that defy logic and science as you know it. And I've been told them by people, right? Now, on one hand, I can go, man, that sounds crazy, man. The white man say that's impossible. I can't believe that. Or I could say, well, this individual I'm talking to is an eyewitness of this. And I know this individual. And I know their integrity. And I know they're not trying to mislead me. Why would they just make something like this up?
Yeah.
So who am I going to believe? My brother? My grandmother? My mother-in-law? Or the white man?
Yeah, reliable sources. We don't heard these stories.
I done had a brother tell me about a man flying in Haiti. Seeing a man. I done heard multiple testimonies about levitation and flying around in Haiti. I've heard it. Right? Now, I could go by what the white man say. Now, hell no. A person can't fly, Officer Assad. Or I could say, well, why the hell would this brother lie? This brother's in the truth. His brother was a child in Haiti, came to America. And goddamn it, he said he went out the house and seen the nigga flying.
What's the one brother said he seen a horse. And
it wasn't a horse.
It wasn't a horse. I don't know what he meant, but I understood what he meant, though.
There was a spirit, that horse was possessed by a demon.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Can I go into the Bible and see animals get possessed? Yes, I can. So I don't give a damn what the white man says, as long as it's not out of the parameters of what I know biblically is possible. Which, according to the Most High, nothing's possible with the Most High.
That's right, Sabrina. That's the bottom line. The
That's right. That's right. You see what I'm saying? But I'm gonna go with that. But you let the white man infiltrate your. See, the brother Table King. You heard about, and it sounds crazy. I ain't seen it, but damn it, I've heard it from multiple people, and the people I've heard it from, I know it's not gonna lie to me. They don't lie. Why? And if they were to lie to me about anything, why in the hell would they lie about that? They had nothing to gain from that, right? So what does that let you know, man? We can't just go off of what the white man and his science say all the time. Not saying that we totally disregard it, but there are things that certainly supersede it. Angela, my great-grandfather was 115 when he died in 99. He raised me and told me many stories about the white man and how his eldest brother was sold to a man going to New York. Were we just not going to believe that? Your grandfather told it to you, right? They know it, right? All right. All right. Let's go back to this.
How do you
Give me 1 second, y'all. Just 1 second. All right. Salakia. All praise to the Most High. We're back. All right, let's keep going.
prove you come from ancient Israel?
Well, like I said, I'm taking genetics to West Africa, and then I'm going off of what I can gather from West Africa. Like he said, DNA is a science. It's a right science. But here's the thing, right? You can find out who somebody's father is, even somebody's grandfather, right? You get off of a rape or, things of that nature. But once we start going back generations, right, there's a lot of variables that start to play in the DNA, right? Like you got 4 parents, right? And you got 8 grandparents. We go past that, we multiplying on a lot of numbers. So now we're dealing with a lot of factors. You see what I'm saying? And that's where I begin to call DNA into question. Not at this generation or even the next generation. I start to call DNA into question once we start going deep off into it. You see what I'm saying?
What you're referring to is called autosomal DNA. Hold on a second. Hold on.
Autosomal DNA. He's going to break it down, and this is good because it's a different conversation. Autosomal DNA, as he's going to explain, is the reason why they say you cannot rely on a DNA test for your ancestry, because it's too many variables, right? But as he stated from the onset, he's not talking about that. He's talking about why, and he'll clarify that as well. He's talking about the why. You got the why, and you got the mitochondria. But he's talking about the why because what matters to Israelites would be the why, right?
A second, I'm gonna help him out. I told you I'm helping him out. Listen, for those who don't know, and for my brothers behind me who don't know, why DNA again is from the father to the father to the father. So now, he's the ancestor. Goes to him, E1B1A, 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 E1B1A goes all the way to you. All right? So now that's 9 people straight from the father to the father. Now look at what happened. Look at what you just said now. Now you got the mother's line. Mother, white, black, Puerto Rican, no matter what. Same DNA carrying, can't change. Can't change. The Y DNA for the father can't change. What changes is the autosomal DNA in between that, where you have the 4 grandparents and this grandparent, the in between. But the Y DNA that started with all 10 of you guys can't change. You understand what I'm saying?
Now, like he said, it can't change. Now, this is also problematic. How can it not change if it even exists in the first place, right? There are different haplogroups. These haplogroups are dated back to periods of time that they pop up. All of a sudden, he says E1B1A is 14,000 years old, right? Okay, so when did it become E1B1A? Y'all gonna hear me ask about this later. When did it become that? So if it became E1B1A, how long is it gonna take E1B1A to turn into another one? So it can change due to mutation over the course of time. It can change, or else there would be no such thing as a haplogroup, and everyone would just be one thing. So these things mutate over the course of time. So it can change. It's not true that it can't change. Right? You got a point?
So is E1B1A the oldest, is what he's saying?
No, E1B1A is not the oldest. It's the one that pertains to West Africa.
Okay, so then E1B1A, the way it even came to be E1B1A, obviously had to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
What it was
A is, they go in order. So A is the oldest, right? A and then B. B is like the pygmy one, right? I asked about the pygmy one, then I did the research. B is like the pygmy one. But A is the oldest. A would be, A is, I think, like the East African, like the Habesha haplogroup. Okay. That's the oldest. So, but E is, but so like you're saying though, everything is springing out of there.
Right.
Wherever the first one is, everything mutated from. So when did something become distinct from the other? This has to happen. So it does change because eventually something makes itself distinct through its mutations from the other one.
Yeah, or else we would all be the same.
Or else we'd all be the same. We would all look the same, etc. Right? So that's another, but you got to pay attention to what they're saying.
That means we can go back all the way 2,000 years, 4,000 years, and know where your Y DNA went and where it traveled. That's how important DNA is. It could tell us. It could tell us where your family. How did Ancestry DNA know I was Jamaican?
No, but here's also the question. He's saying that we could go back 4,000 years and see where I came. But where is the? Can we get the individual, the nigga from 4,000 years ago? That's my great grandfather. Can we? Who is he? Can we bring him up? No, we can't. See what I'm saying?
So they just dig up a body from.
You can just go back to say, okay, the people who are from West Africa and the Negroes that were transported here on cargo slave ships, they have this. They can only deal with the people who are alive. And the people who died not too long ago, and we can say, okay, this grave was built here 1755. They can't go past that. Yeah. They can't. They don't have subjects to run tests on to substantiate that. So that's not true. But go ahead.
Yeah. So how do they determine? For example, do they just dig up a dead body or a carcass of someone in a region and determine how old he is, and then from that they take a sample of his DNA and then compare it and contrast?
Yeah.
But what if the reason why that's flawed, and the reason why I bring it up is, well, how do you know the individual that died in that certain place is indigenous to that place?
Indigenous to it, you don't know.
Because so applying that line of reasoning, if Garfield died right in America in
Harlem right there,
right, and 10,000 years ago someone were to dig him up, they would think that he's from New York.
This is a Harlemite, right? But he's a Jamaican.
But you're from, so that doesn't make any sense at all.
Exactly, and there's a problem with that. What a chronic killer said. He said, "I knew Garfield was lying on the DNA not mutating. It would, all these DNA This is how they even have haplogroups through mutations. We're gonna read about these mutations in a second too, y'all. So just pay close attention, right?
But I didn't tell them. Mika, this other sister.
But how do they know that you were Jamaican? It's very simple, because you do share current mutations or current DNA that's similar to other Jamaicans, living Jamaicans. Remember, his living DNA. This is what's important. They can test people who are alive and say, okay, well, the Jamaican, or everybody who we have Jamaican has something similar to this. That's true. I can see that, right? People who are alive. But we're talking about proving who we are in antiquity, proving that we came from Israel 2,000 years ago. That cannot be proven through genetic testing. That's the point. And that's, again, y'all, going back to the initial question, and Sonetta is going to continually hammer this point in, but the conclusion of everything that's being said here is it's impossible to determine genetically who's from where 2,000 years ago. There is not a genetic test that can be conducted to determine this emphatically. And that's the question I'm being asked, to do something that scientists think is not even possible, or something that is scientifically not possible. I'm being asked to do, right?
That's on Facebook and YouTube. How they knew she said to Garfield, how they know I'm Jamaican? Nobody tells them, because guess what? The DNA tracks or the sequences in her genes is similar to the people that came off the slave boat that lived in Jamaica.
Exactly, and he's right. But how do we know this? Because they're alive right now. What about 2,000 years ago? Because that's the thing that we're questioning right now.
So this is how important DNA is. We can't go around it. This is the biggest flaw for Muslims, Christians, or Hebrews, or anybody who want to claim that they come from somewhere. DNA ends all of that.
It doesn't end all of that, because without samples from these places in antiquity, we cannot say it ends anything. because this is incomplete. There's all we can find out is who came from where in recent history. That's it. I wouldn't give this half a millennia. I wouldn't. It's generous to say that DNA tests can go 500 years. That's generous. I won't give it a day over 500. And if you could, I would love for you to explain how. I would love for you to show me the individuals whose bodies are older than 500 years and tested through. I need grave markers. I need things that can show me emphatically that this skeleton that you dug up is 500 years old or older. Then I got to see you test the DNA, right? Which is there's DNA in bone marrow?
I'm not sure.
I need to look this up because if there's not no blood, I don't know
how do you determine?
How do you even test the DNA? I want to look that up right now. Matter of fact. All right, now I could be right about this. I could be wrong. We're gonna see right now on the fly. DNA and bone marrow. Okay, go ahead, Salaki.
Also, too, like in a region where there's a diverse population of different kinds of people, how do you determine which one is the indigenous population?
That's true. Which one is what? Is it the majority?
That's what I was thinking too. Maybe the majority, but
Native Americans are the minority of America right now. So we see how flawed this is. That's right.
Exactly my point.
As a bone marrow recipient, your blood cells will contain DNA from your marrow donor. Well, okay. So bone marrow. Hold on. Can you get DNA from bone marrow? Because the new bone marrow cells have the donor's DNA, and bone marrow contains blood stem cells. These patients will have some of their own bone marrow and some of the donor bone marrow. This means their DNA profile will be a mixture of both. Okay, so you can get DNA from bone marrow. Okay, so like I said, you would have to get a sample that we can verify from somebody that's older than 500 years, 1,000 years, 2,000 years. We'd have to get that sample and then match it against people. That has not been done yet. We're just going off of current people and where they live, right? Period.
So it's either we accept it and be in denial, or we don't accept it. So what I'm saying?
No, we accept it, and we accept it for the truth that it is. We don't accept it past what we can verify empirically. There is no empirical verification of you can trace my Y-DNA 4,000 years, because that means you can give me the name of the nigga and where he lived and where he came from and the tribe he was from 4,000 years ago. You can't do that, especially because Y-DNA broadly blankets all of West Africa. So what is the original West African tribe that Y-DNA came from? Can we do that? No. See what I'm saying? You can't do that. So we have to pay attention to what's being said, and we have to analyze what's being said.
Yeah, and if I may too, I don't mean to keep interrupting.
No, it's beautiful. Go ahead.
It's just so hypocritical that, an atheist or people that come from this perspective will say you got to, basically chalk a whole lot of stuff up to faith to believe in the Bible. But when you look at it and just the basic questions that we're asking, we didn't even take time to really go in depth. We could have been probably posing some questions that would really put this whole DNA stuff in the dirt, which we really have just on a minute level. But when you really go into DNA, just from what I'm listening to right now, the conclusions that we're coming to, there's a whole lot of like coincidences and nuances that you just have to negate in order to put your trust in this science.
Yeah, this is faith based too.
It's exactly what it is. It's faith based, or
it's a religion.
Is probable, ballpark estimates and things that are probable versus.
Well, but they're not doing that because he's not talking ballpark estimate. He's talking all this stuff emphatically.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
If you pay attention to what he said, he spoke from a position of it's emphatic.
That's insane.
And not estimates. The only time he talks about estimates where he says emphatically the E1B1A sequence goes back 14,000 years. Right. He says that they say it goes back 40, but he says that that's not verifiable. But he says 14 is verifiable. What do he say? Go ahead.
You want me to get the Timothy?
No, not yet. We're going to go a little further. Don't worry. We're going to go a little further. We're going to hit him with that Timothy.
Is for you to prove that you're Israelite, you are going to have the markers. You said a great statement. You don't think there's proof that ancient Israelites they have DNA evidence? Okay. The ancient Israelites in anthropology, in archaeology, in history, the ancient Israelites are actually considered Canaanites.
Now, this is very important to listen to, because he's exactly correct.
Why?
I understand that.
All right. The Canaanites.
It was called what
All right.
we used to call the term Afro-Asiatic.
Right. All right. Let's look at this for a second.
Exactly, right? They consider all those people. You have to understand. And I'm going to clarify. Matter of fact, I'm going to just play it because I'm going to clarify all this now. I don't even need to butt in on this.
You got these two brothers here. They are from Canaan. You two are from Canaan, right? He's a Edomite. Let's say he's a Edomite. Not picking on you because of your color.
Call the brother I'm one of Edomite.
These two are Edomites.
Okay. He called the two Latin brothers Edomites,
Right.
man.
That's
Yeah, come on. But hey, look, he said it immediately. Not because of your color.
right.
These two right here are Ammonites. This brother right here and you are Israelites.
So me and Amatas are Israelites. The rest of you niggas is heathens. No, I'm playing. See, notice he called the brother from the Jamaican brother and the Haitian brother Israelites, right? And
Right.
he called everyone else non-Israelites.
Well, we should start the new West Indian doctrine.
Well, he believes that, right?
well, hey,
No, I'm playing.
Every one of you guys are considered Canaanites in the world of archaeology. And
Yes, in the world of archaeology and anthropology, right? And I'm going to explain why. Look at Ariel. I keep forgetting Ariela's in the chat. Why? Because, no, Abraham's father was not a Canaanite. Abraham's father was a Shemitic Hebrew. Why, though, everyone? Why? Because how do we determine who we are? By patrilineage and nation. Anthropology does not look at people like that. We all live in Canaan. They call all of us the Canaanites because that's where we live. We understand that we don't subscribe to that, right? We get it. But this is where we lived. So history does not look at patrilineage. History looks at these niggas live in Canaan, they're the Canaanites. Or then those people are the Canaanites. And that's it, right? Garfield doesn't believe in Egypt, Micaiah. Garfield is not a proponent of the Kemetic science.
and history. What happened is the Edomites developed into a god called Quam.
Quaz.
Yeah,
Quaz is what he meant.
That's how, if you're looking at history now, you start finding Edomite names with Quam at the end. So you find the Moabites now, because you know the Moabites write that they kill off the Israelites. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
They wrote that. They did write that they killed the Israelites off. Yes, it's not true, but they wrote that in propaganda.
Like that. We don't believe that, right? Because that means you can't be an Israelite if they kill you all off, right? All right.
That's right.
So now you have the Ammonites. Right. So Moabites now, who Lord Abba likes to claim.
Yes, some of the Moors, the Lord Abba, and some of the Moors claim that they're Moabites.
They're
Extremely pseudo.
Canaanites. All the people in that region, they're from different cultures, but they're intermingled, and they're what you call Canaanites. Now, the Israelites now, right? You and this brother here are Israelites. You now decided you're going to step out and you're going to start worshiping a God named Yah. Yah comes out of Egypt with the Shasu of Yahweh.
Yes, he's exactly right now. Again, pay attention to this. What he's saying is all correct right here.
They came into Edom because if you know Habakkuk 3, you could read it. Verse.
The Holy One came from Edom and from Mount
Mount
Paran.
Paran.
Yeah, right from Mount Paran. He knows right what he's talking about. He's on point right here.
He said,
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure you're gonna. I haven't seen this far, but I'm pretty sure Jake might be going nuts in their head right now. Is he saying y'all come the Egyptians we stole? That's not.
Yeah, y'all gotta pay attention. Pay attention. All right. I'm gonna explain all this in a second.
came from Teman, right? If I'm wrong, y'all could check me.
No, he's exactly right.
Y'all the Bible specialists, all right? So God came from Teman, and if you study where the Shasu went, they went into what's called Seir, and the Bible also confirms that's where Yahweh come from.
Yes, because when we left out of Egypt, we went into the wilderness. Remember when the Edomites wouldn't let us pass? Mm-hmm. That's what it's in reference to. All right, so he's writing exactly what he's saying.
Worship of Yahweh based on scholarship. This ain't got nothing to do with the Bible. Say that God come from Edom. So the God that y'all worship, if y'all believe Esau is a white man, y'all worshiping Edomite God. All right.
No. See,
not go on his face.
Yeah. See that now this is where he went left because the Edomites never worshipped that. The Edomites worship Quaz, like he said.
Yeah, he just admitted.
Look at knock on nose. That look at him. He's like, man, this nigga's crazy, right? That's why you see my face. No. Look at Yazaniah. Yazaniah can't take another.
The Walk has the same face. His face has not changed.
That's how far I'm gonna go. But go ahead. Respond to that.
Not necessarily because just following the premise, him coming from Edom is dealing with him revealing to himself while we was in the wilderness of Edom. You see what I'm saying? But
exactly right. That's why I said the Holy One from Mount Paran, etc., because it's referencing those instances that occurred while we were in the wilderness. Just like it says he came from Egypt. How did he come from? It's where he showed himself to us in Egypt. Then he appeared various times in the wilderness, in Mount Paran, in Mount Sinai, etc. Right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
That's just, I mean, that to take that text and to apply, that's like if let's say you were kicking at the crib and I called you and we was chopping it up and you said, where you at? I said, man, I'm coming from South Dakota Mall or something like that. Does that mean I'm from the South Dakota Mall?
Yes, the origin of this man was born, his nativity is the South Dakota Mall. No, that doesn't mean that. That's just where I seen you there, or, you know what I mean, or whatever. That's what that means. So they're drawing these, and it's crazy because what he's propagating is a theory that scholars have, and it's crazy sometimes the theory scholars have. You just go, how can you, as a scholar, draw that from that? As somebody who's supposed to be regarded as somebody that's educated, of high intelligence, how are you coming to these conclusions? It's actually pretty clear. You know, it doesn't even take a rocket scientist to figure out. It says he came from Mount Paran, Mount Sinai, and Egypt. Those are three different places. Which one does he come from? Or do I read from the historical narrative of Scripture and see him doing specific things at these specific places and utilizing the locations that these places happen to call into remembrance to the people that it happened to, that this is the God that did this here. See what I'm saying?
as far as the Shasu and that whole system, that goes into the Exodus narrative and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? But basically, that's what we come out of. That's why you have certain Hebrew brothers that will argue with, let's say, a brother from a Kemetic, where the Israelites ain't in Egypt. And brothers are trying to find the Israelites in Egypt, and they don't realize the Israelites ain't in Egypt. That isn't.
Hold on. Y'all heard me, right? The Israelites ain't in Egypt, right? Watch this.
The Israelites weren't in Egypt, but it's not called the Israelites.
See that? We were in Egypt, but we were not called the Israelites when we were in slavery in Egypt. Are we called the Israelites in slavery in America? No, we're slaves. They call us whatever the hell they feel like. We're no nation that comes over here and they invented a title and a nationality to identify us. No different from what they did in Egypt, because we weren't an established nation like we were when we went into other captivities.
You got to understand, Israel become a nation when? When they leave Egypt. You see what I'm saying? Oh, I mean, you got.
See, like you said, you're a smart guy. This is what Israelites have to start doing. You're trying to make yourself the goddamn Hyksos. You're trying to make you look for the. You're not none of that, man. All right? You're not the Hyksos. The Israelite, you ain't going to find the Israelite in slavery in Egypt. You're not going to find that. You're going to find the Shasu, and the Shasu got a God named Yahweh. That's what you're going to find. Coincidentally. And the Shasu were led out of slavery by a man named Amemisi. Misi. That sounds kind of like a transliteration of something. What is it a transliteration of? MASHARAH, Moses. And you're going to find a Pharaoh that we escaped from. Body is not in his tomb. But he was immortalized in a later tomb as the Pharaoh in the boat. Why is he the Pharaoh in the boat? Oh, and maybe because his body went into the bottom of the ocean when the sea closed up on him. So they remember him by putting a mock mummy of him in a boat. Maybe that's why. Huh?
Well, nah, brother, you know.
You know, but you know what? Through the Spirit, we got to do the Exodus lecture. The Israelites in Egypt lecture through the Spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Because you have different schools of thought and different Israelites with different breakdowns. But a brother told me about Amemisi, and through the Spirit I researched, and I found everything that we need to see. I found history from the Egyptian records that correspond with, in large part, what the Exodus says. You just have to look for the right thing. If you're looking for the Israelites, you ain't going to find it, because they weren't calling us that. It's just that simple. They called us the Shasu, Asiatic slaves. When we first went in there, they called us the Assyrians. See what I'm saying? So these are the things that we got to research.
Study, brother. You got to study. You know what I'm saying? So if you're looking for it,
like you said, and you got to know this, because a lot of Israelites have got themselves destroyed not knowing this, and trying to argue with brothers who know this or brothers who don't know this, and you're trying to find the Israelites in Egypt and you'll never find it. Not until after we're established and we go to war and Egypt get over on us, and then they write it on the walls of Karnak. That's the first mention you're going to find of Israel or the Israelites in Egypt on the walls of Karnak, going back about 1,900 BCE. Not 1,900, but about 900/1000 BCE. You'll find that in that record. But you're not going to find a mention of Israel prior to that, because we were not reckoned as the Israelites until we conquest Canaan and plant our flag. Period. You guys got to understand these things.
In Egypt, during that time, it's impossible to find. You see it later on when Israel is established now, and now here come Egypt on a conquest into the Levant. Now we see here's Israel, right? But you're not going to see it before that. Reason why you're not going to see it before that is because all we are is the niggas that's there being subjugated.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
we'll get into that. Touch on the last part with the DNA and
The DNA. Okay, boom. So like I said, when you start dealing with variables like E1, B1A, so the question is, all right, how
Pay attention to this question.
many different predominant Y markers exist?
I know now it's about 25.
I can't tell you off the top of my head. But
It's like 25 or something like that. It's a gang of them, though.
as far as for Africans, West Africans, if you take a random person
There's not a lot for West Africans, though.
in West Africa right now in Nigeria, I'm gonna give a quick example. Remy Yona, who pushes that he's an Israelite, right? He's an Igbo. He has 95% E1B1A, and he has 0.2% Mediterranean DNA, and he claims he's from Israel.
Yes, because the 0.2% Mediterranean DNA that he has matches up with the current inhabitants of the Mediterranean, not those that inhabited it 2,000 or more years ago.
That literally.
Go ahead.
To take something like that, to take DNA from somebody and apply it to people
Antiquity.
that currently live in that geographical location, would then assume that those said people that in that geographical
Have
location
always been there.
have always been there. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How many peoples on the earth are in the same place that they've always been in? Not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, primitive human beings by nature were nomadic. So at the most prime stage of humanity, we see nomadic behavior, nomadic tendencies, migratory tendencies. Today, mass migrations due to famine, due to war, like you were saying. So we can't honestly say that and just go off of that. Now, there's certain people who we can really historically substantiate. These people have been there for a while. They've been planted. East Africans, the East Indians, we could say that them two groups have been planted where they are for a long time. Right? And they have very rich culture that coincides with that. But we can't really say that for a lot of other people.
It makes sense. If you're not,
And from a biblical perspective, that it lines up with the biblical narrative that the Cushites and Elam have been planted and have the richest cultures.
5% of something, I don't care what anybody says. If you invest in a property, $100, and they say you're gonna get about $95, you're gonna take that instead of 2 cents. Am I correct? So now, why would Remy Yona push he's an Igbo, he's an Israelite? Because
he's going off of his ancestral tradition and oral tradition. That's what he's going off of. That supersedes a test that only tests people who are alive today.
it's good business to claim you're Israelite in Africa. It is. Because you're treated differently. You get flew out to all different areas. You do speaking engagements. So claiming that you're Israel is very beneficial for West Africans.
If claiming that you're Israel under the guise of Judaism is. That's the asterisk that has to be added on there. Not just claiming you're an Israelite, but claiming you're an Israelite under the guise of Judaism, and you are conforming to rabbinical Judaism. That's lucrative for a West African. But just saying you're an Israelite and not acknowledging Judaism, rabbinic Judaism's superiority, and falling up under their agenda is not lucrative whatsoever. Right?
If you live in a situation that's not nice.
Exactly.
All right? But hold on, one more thing. But the variables of Y DNA, there are different variables that can be tracked. Like A00, they found in Perry in South Carolina. They trace it back to Cameroon.
Yeah, A00. A00 is what they say is the oldest of all time, is A00. That's Y chromosomal atom. Hold on. Where is this A00 at? See that? As of 2018, this is haplogroup A00. This is where Y chromosomal atom comes from, A00, right? Which is also African.
Goes back 13,000 years when they interacted with archaic humans. It goes all the way back 300,000 years in the sequence, right?
So look, 300,000 years sequence. This is where it gets crazy.
So that's the oldest paternal line that we have.
Which was, again, this was discovered in 2013, right?
The pygmy line, this is you talking about, or am I tripping?
I asked about the pygmy line. Pygmy line is actually not A, it's B.
No, I don't think that's a pygmy line. No, I could be wrong though.
Yeah, he's right. He's right.
All right, but I'm saying to you, the variables of different Y DNA, based on what you told me, I don't think it's possible you could claim Israel based off genetics. But
I don't think it's possible to prove it. So we're not doing it based off of genetics. It's not what we're doing. So again, he says he doesn't think it's possible for us to claim Israel based on genetics. I agree. I don't feel it's possible to even remotely substantiate through genetics because the genetic of the ancient Israelites, that we don't have something to test it against. But remember, y'all, I'm being asked a question that the person who's asking me the question and science has rendered impossible to give an answer to. Pay attention.
now, when you come to your autosomal DNA, this is why DNA is important now. The autosomal give you the admixture in between, the 4 grandfathers, the 4 grandmothers, the mixture in between of different people. That's going to give you who was mixed up inside of you.
Yeah.
So now, you might find.
Sonetta wants to keep asking me this question, and like, look at Garfield, look at him. You don't get it. It's not possible to answer this question. You're asking me an impossible question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Look, he's saying, "Oh, okay, we get it already. We know. We've answered the question 3 or 4 times over."
Oh yeah, but yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay, I'm with you. Well, the reason why I asked him that, I'm gonna build on that off of that question. So the reason why I asked that question about that is, if we take a look at the different Ys that exist. Okay, go ahead.
What I want to know is, how do you come up with who's a Hebrew Israelite? If you don't take the test, if you don't believe in the DNA test, how can you just look at a brother and say, oh, he's a Hebrew? Because he want to claim, he want to come and join us, so he's a Hebrew. How do you do that?
All right, so yeah, so the reason why I asked him about the different Ys that exist is dealing with, okay, these Ys, when did they begin to split, right? That's the question, right? When did they begin to split? When did they begin to get cultivated and we know, okay, this is the emphatic, this one. This is the emphatic, that one, that one, that one.
42,000 years ago, the E1B1A branched off.
That's what,
42,000 years ago, E1B1A branched off. Pay attention.
Oh, okay, that's what you wanted to know? All right, so you have the E marker, the original E marker. So the original E marker is this brother right here. So the E marker went this way and went all the way down to the brother to the end, and the E marker, E1B1A also went this way. All right? So now 42,000 years ago, there's a split to South Africa and a split to West Africa. So that's how we know, because, and then how they prove it, again, is the sequence within your DNA, because it actually...
Pay attention to what he's saying. 42,000 years ago, it can be proved with a sequence. It's what he's saying right now, right?
And history, and you could trace it. So you could see when, if you have European on your Y line, they could actually tell you around what year it happened, if it happened within 500 years. You understand? Because a lot of us are light skinned, a lot of us are dark skinned. So if you're more light skinned and you look in your Y DNA and say, okay, there's some European going here. I'm gonna give a perfect example. Rick Kittles, the guy that owns 23andMe.
Okay.
That owns African ancestry DNA. His Y DNA goes to Europe.
So Garfield is suggesting that this man's an Edomite.
You understand what I'm saying? So
Watch.
his Y DNA go to
Now watch what he say.
So what does that say about him? You understand? And he's darker than every brother out here.
Brother's pitch black and got a European white DNA. So what do we say? Do we say that he's an Edomite? Do we say his forefather is white? Or do we say maybe his forefather was a brother in Europe? Right? These are possible. That happened to Oprah. Remember, Oprah she swore she was a Zulu. Then her DNA said she came from Spain.
Well, Muhammad Ali's DNA
is Irish. Well, but that's not his Y though. It's not his Y.
Okay.
But like, see, because they're doing that, like he said, off of autosomal. The reason why he's only zeroing in on Y because he knows that's all we care about is Y.
hey, and that happens. That happens with genetics, right? But just dealing with that is, I got you. So essentially, No, but he's elaborating on the science, so we have to, because I'm answering according to that, right? The idea that we can unwrap a DNA sequence out 42,000 years is something I'm gonna have to be skeptical about.
Now mind you, he just said we can unwrap it 42,000 years. I said I'm gonna have to be skeptical. Watch this.
For a multitude of reasons. So it's more information that we're gonna need on the history of it. That's all I want to understand. What everything is, understanding methodology, understanding if it's sound, understanding if anything is theoretical, because then we can get, because I'm not necessarily against totally a DNA test, but I want to understand it fully to understand and make sure, okay, we can rely upon this. You see what I'm saying? Because go ahead.
This might help you out. Like I
Watch
said before, the common ancestor is 14,000 years ago.
14, right?
600 years ago, to be exact. They could trace the sequence that far. So now I'm saying to you that they traced the sequence up to that time period that we could actually go in a lab with somebody and figure that out. The 42,000 now, I can't.
That's a little late.
That's we can't. I can't say, hey, I got information for that. I got the information for the 40.
So what he's saying, he can't prove it. He can't prove the 42. He just said it. We can unwrap it 42,000, but then he just said, okay, I can't prove it. Right? Because it's not concrete. He's saying the 14,000 is more concrete than 42. Okay, cool. So the 42, that's out the window now. We got that. That's gone.
Where are they? Just, no, we don't know.
We're going to get into that in a second.
Okay.
Now, all right. So answer something before he
Yeah. Now also, even following this, right? Even let's say that, right? When we deal with, let's say you have a brother, right? You and your brother. Let's say your brother left.
Pay attention to this hypothetical scenario.
He went to Japan, right? And he stayed in Japan. He had kids. You had kids. My question is, 14,000 years later, can we tell that y'all are brothers or these kids are related?
Is that a good question? Let's say, again, you have a brother, y'all split up, 14,000 years later, two different sides of the earth, two different lineages. Are we going to be able to tell if they're related? Let's see how he answers.
All right. Now, the Y DNA that he has for his son, and if his son has sons and sons and sons, yes.
Okay.
But if that's true, then there would be no difference in the E's that split, according to him, 14,600 years ago. There would never be no difference. But they split. E1B1A, E1B1B. They split. So you actually wouldn't be able to tell that at that point, 14,000 years from that split. So two people can be brothers, have the same lineage, and then eventually these things can part and be identified differently due to mutation. That's how we have the haplogroups that we have today. So that, what he said is not accurate according to what he's been saying this whole time. So the whole reason I bring that up is we have Israelites, they get split up over the course of 1,000 years, they have babies. Their Y DNAs can be different due to mutation. That's according to DNA science in and of itself. The fact that there are haplogroups proves that, because that's how haplogroups even developed. People splitting, migrating, mutations, etc., being isolated from one another over the course of millennia. So that's a cut. Give me science falsely so-called now.
1 Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust,
Uh-huh.
avoiding profane and vain babblings
Uh-huh.
and oppositions of science falsely so-called.
Exactly. It's science that is falsely so-called. It's not true science. Science means to know. We do not know these things emphatically. A lot of this stuff is theoretical, not exact. And not exact as it purports itself to be just because it's generally accepted. Right? So now let's go to this real quick. I want to this is about Y chromosomal atom, right? And it says the time when Y chromosomal atom, which is YMRCA, lived is determined by applying a molecular clock to human Y chromosomes, right? So a molecular clock is being applied. In contrast to mitochondrial DNA, which is a short sequence of 16,000 pairs and mutates frequently. The Y chromosome is significantly longer at 60 million base pairs and has a lower mutation rate. These features of the Y chromosomes have slowed down the identification of its polymorphisms. As a consequence, they have reduced the accuracy of Y chromosome mutation rate estimates. Right? So because there are 60 million pairs that they have to look at, And because it doesn't mutate as frequently as mitochondrial, it's the readings that they're getting off these Y samples are inaccurate. Again, it's reduced the accuracy of the estimates, which this entire thing is based off of. Estimating Y chromosomal mutations. The accuracy of these estimates are reduced, and they are what? What's the key word here, Hassad? Estimates. It's already an estimate, meaning it's not exact, and the accuracy of these estimates has been reduced. So how can we rely on this as an exact science? Timothy again, please.
1 Timothy 6:20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called.
See that? It's a falsely so-called science. It is not an exact science. It's not to know. So because it's not to know, we cannot be reliant upon this. Again, they have reduced the accuracy of Y chromosome mutation rate estimates. So they're estimates whose accuracy has been reduced. So how can we swear by these things as exact? How? And for the record, here's the source on this. What's this?
This is the etymology of the word estimation. It says a matter of judging opinion.
So it's all opinion based. And the accuracy of the opinion has been reduced. So these are inaccurate opinions. This whole Y-DNA science is predicated on Salakia. What did I say? Opinions is predicated. Y-DNA science is predicated upon inaccurate opinions. According to itself. Right? So this is via, the source on this is the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences of the United States of America. It's verified. See what I'm saying? It's verified. And this was written. Various doctors here. Oh, from the Stanford University School of Medicine. Is this official enough for you? The Stanford University School of Medicine? So at the end of the day, he's telling us to swear by something that's based upon inaccurate opinions. We can't swear by that.
Yeah, I think with the Israelite community, I think that's what's throwing us off. Two arguments I got to talk about. E1B1A is called the Israelite DNA by a doctor in the Hebrew Israelite community. Yeah. All right. He says that because he's mistaken. Yeah. And he's mistaken. I know he ain't answered you yet, but hold on a second. Oh, man.
Brother, don't take the mic until he answers the question. You see your Hebrew brother determine that they are Hebrew. How do you know that brother right there with the white shirt don't have African blood? How do you know these brothers don't have African blood? Right, but I'm saying, that's the question. So how do you come up with he's a Hebrew Israelite? That's what I want to know.
So now we're taking not just genetics on the table, right? Because that's all I was dealing with the genetic part. So how do we deal with what you got? What you got wrong? Okay, beautiful. This is the number one way, right? Read.
This is the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 16. The Spirit itself.
Spirit itself, right, Reid?
Beareth witness with our spirit
right.
that we are the children of God.
Now hold on. Get John 6:63. Because it says the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit, right? Now, somebody can take that and just go off of their own personal opinion, right? So we can't, it's got to be measurable, right? We have to have something to measure. We can't just go off, because you have certain guys, like, listen, I ain't going to say even the camp's name, but if you have a white boy that's cool, they'll, listen, this is Israelite. He's got to be one of, because he's cool or whatever, right? You have certain people that'll do that. Oh, this dude is cool. So, you know what I mean?
I'll call his name.
Yeah, well, yeah, they'll do it, but also GMS will do it, right? Yeah, go.
Hey, I had to call it.
Yeah, boom. Yeah.
Oh no, he said Gabar.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't even.
I didn't even pay it. I thought he was talking about GOCC Gabar, but no, because you know he deals with him. But
okay.
Of Great Millstone.
He's cool, so he's down with us. Nah, man. You see what I'm saying? Right? Not saying, okay, you can certain factors, right? Like, let's take the Sicilian, for example. Somebody can make an argument, okay, with a Sicilian, there was a Moorish conquest in Sicily, and the black Moors was coming and they were screwing the hell. But genetically, you could even observe black features on some of these individuals, right? You can see summertime come out, they blacker than Sarnetta. right, think he a white boy. That happens, right? But they just are just anybody based off of that. So it has to be measurable. That's the part, right? So now John 6 and 63, read.
This is the book of John, chapter 6, verse 63. It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life.
So the words, right? So we go off of the scripture. This is how, Shalom, bro. How you feeling, man? We go off of, we go off of, you said what? Come. So we go off of scripture, right? Here's what a lot of people don't write. People get all messed up with the term African. We not, number one, let's be practical. We open this Bible, right? Israel starts, at the narrative of Israel, we leave Canaan, where do we go? Egypt, right? According to the average Israelite, it'll say that we were cast out of Israel, right, 70 AD, and they'll say we went into Africa predominantly, right? It said there's a place prepared for us. We teach that that's what? West Africa, right? So now we have over 2 millennia in Africa, according to what we say.
2 millennia, 2,000 years.
And then we turn around and say what? We're not Africans. We spend a whole lot more time there than we spend in Israel. That's if you're of the school of thought that Africa is not already a part of Israel. So this is why I don't have a problem with the term, because here's what happened with Israelites. We say the Hebrew is, this is our nationality, right? Then they go, African is not, you're right, it's not nobody's nation. Nobody, it's not a nation, it's a continent, right? So anytime somebody talk about being an African, it have nothing to do with a national identity. So Hebrew Israelites got to stop getting so out of their skin when they hear that. That's not a national identity. This is a broader continental identity. Like if you talk to an East African brother, right? Like he be Somalian, Ethiopian, he'll say, I identify by my tribe, then I identify as the Ethiopian, then I identify as the East African, then I identify as an African, but that's still a part, and it's not his principal identity, but it's a part of his overall identity. So we can't rule that out. If you went in 70 souls, right, it says in Exodus, Jacob took his sons into Egypt, 70 souls that came out of his loins. All of a sudden you come out, it's a gang of people. How are you reproducing? Oh, somebody's womb was getting used. That's the Egyptian womb that was being used, right? Then we go into Canaan. The Canaan, you see what I'm saying? So you can't rule out or add that fact. Here what
Oh, that's for the next one. That's for the next one. Where is the next one at? Where we at? Yeah, you know what? Bear with us 1 second.
a supreme being, or that you see what I'm saying? Well, yeah, he's listen. This brother's father is born in Africa. Yes. But listen, hold on. But listen, we all of that. Technically, it's only 3 tribes of Israel that wouldn't be called African because they would be what you would call east of the Jordan, which would be half of Manasseh, Reuben, and Gad. They east of the Jordan. Anything west of the Jordan is what? That's Africa. And then when you ask the Israelite, here's how you stump brothers who get all messed up on Africa. Oh, you're not African, so you Asian? Because Israel's either in Africa or it's in Asia. You got to pick one. So you Asian now, brother? Well, you have some brothers that will be Asian before they're African. Go ahead.
Now, I like that because when you start including the Africans, brother, you'll have a bigger camp.
You'll get more numbers with the African. Let the African in.
A bigger movement. Y'all be ready for war. All right?
Just let the African in. Ain't a lot of Africans in the conscious community, though. That's what you'll come to find out. Yeah. We got more in Israel than they got in the conscious community.
For sure.
Now, Jacob and Esau come out of the same womb. They wrestling in the womb. They got the same father. Hebrew. He's a Hebrew. Black. Like us. How does he become Esau, the white man, if they was in the same womb, got the same father, share the same DNA? How does now he becomes the white man and the enemy?
See, and this is how you explain it too, real quick, from their perspective. A haplogroup is developed through mutations. So the DNA that went into Esau had mutations that separated him on a genetic level from Jacob. Also, of course, the spirit that was in that man was not upright. Habakkuk 2 and 4, right?
I don't understand that. They still should be brothers. They still brothers.
Excellent question, Sonetta.
Well, we know how the white man have to come to exist. He got to come to exist from a mutation, right? That's how the white man comes to the Asian man. These various people who we would call mutants, right? Some may call mutants. Why? Because of biological mutations. You see what I'm saying? So what we believe occurred in the case of Esau was a biological mutation that had him to have the appearance of a white man, that he went on to pass that on to his descendants.
And the thing is, as well, the reason why the biological makeup of a white man contributes to his spirit and his behavioral traits is because his biological inferiority makes him a parasite in nature. He has to be parasitic in what he does because of his biological inferiorities. Because of the biological disadvantages that white people inherently have, they have to be parasitic because they can't survive without a host to leech on. It's why they have more addictive personality, all these various things. This is scientifically verified, right? So this is what we propose happened in the womb and how Esau was born through a significant biological mutation that was orchestrated by the Most High Yahweh.
Come the nation of Esau after a while, right? Now, he has went out of his way. The white man, let's say, for example, have went out of his way to do what? Try to put his seed all over the place. You see what I'm saying? Why? Because he's trying to shape those genetic mutations that he has. Just on a scientific level, we know, I think all of us would agree that the Caucasian race, who they call the Caucasian race, overall is very parasitic in nature. They operate like a parasitical organism. Would you say so? They want to come and leech off of somebody else, and that's their life support is coming off of leeching. You see what I'm saying? Why is that? Because their genetic mutations have led them to be like that. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I believe, or that's what we believe occurred in the case of Esau, and that's who Esau began to be. And the most important thing, what we use preeminently is prophecy. Prophecy is the most important thing to us because we believe that this is the divine word of God and we can see it, right? We've seen prophecies, right? So that's why we utilize that as the principal thing, because we've seen it. So what helps us most importantly to understand Esau even more than, because a lot of brothers, when they know color, what they call color scriptures are a big thing. Once you get a little more seasoned in being a Hebrew Israelite, we use what they call the color scriptures a lot less. Like i.e. Jeremiah 14:2, Jews are black on the ground. That's not even a color scripture of truth. It has nothing to do with, it said when the gates, it literally talking about when the Babylonians came and burned the gates of Jerusalem, right? Brothers are using that to say, oh, the Jews are black. I mean, listen, if you're there and that's where you at, I don't knock brothers. You know what I'm saying? That's where he's at. But that's the historical context of that is something different, talking about the Babylonian siege in Jerusalem, right? But we deal with the prophetic aspect, right? Because if you call yourself somebody who is a believer in Scripture, you know that these prophecies have to happen. So if these prophecies have to happen, we go, okay, this is what the prophecy says. Who fits this description of this prophecy? What people, according to the knowledge you have, would fit this? So as far as the prophecies concerning Esau, Edom, the Edomites, there's only one person who fits that description, which would be who you would call the Caucasian race. Right, go ahead.
Sign it up. Man.
Yeah, all right, because I see it hypocritical to say Bob Marley is a white man, and the excuse you give is, well, his father white. Is Esau father Hebrew? Is Esau father from the same bloodline as Jacob? Do they share the same DNA? Do they share the same bloodline? Regardless of the Most High separating them in the womb, he still was formed through the DNA of his father. Because if his father wouldn't have planted that seed in there, it wouldn't be no Esau. So that's why I'm asking you, how can you come up with he's separated and he is now the white man when they do share the same father? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and when you respond, I'm gonna give an idea.
All right, yeah, so like I said, through the mutation now, yeah, but the problem is a lot, the problem is a lot of Israelites, like I said, even with the African thing, they having different conversations, right? Like, if we talking about who is a part of being a Hebrew Israelite does not have a monopoly on being black. Let's start there, right? Because we'll say, well, there's other nations that's black too, that's not Israelites. The people of Mizraim are Egypt, right? The people of Kush are Ethiopian. These would be what? Black people, but they're not Israelites. So when brothers just utilize the term black in general, and then you say, well, Bob Marley's not a black man, but he live in a society that would consider him a black man, you're not what you say, well, Bob Marley's not an Israelite because of X, Y, and Z. Not he's not a black man, because this ain't nobody in the damn world that's gonna see Bob Marley walking down the street and go, yeah, this ain't no black man. You see what I'm saying? Unless they just really color struck and he's too light skinned, man. He's not a black man. Even his sons, Ziggy and him, all his sons, right?
So that's the point. I want to make sure that everyone is following me here. When you deal with something called, you know, the modern terminology and what makes somebody black, or how somebody is racially considered black under the guise or auspice that currently rules the societal lens of today, you would say that Lenny Kravitz, Bob Marley, Lauren Leonard, you would say that these are black people. You see what I'm saying? But what they aren't is Israelites.
Right.
Everyone who's black is not an Israelite. And everyone who's an Israelite is not black. You see what I'm saying? So these are, this is the point that I'm making. We get into conversations with certain people, and we are having two different conversations, and we're wondering why we can't find common ground, because we're having two different conversations. If we're talking about the societal classifications of race, being black is just totally determined on how you look. Period. Being an Israelite is not about how you look. You see what I'm saying? Necessarily. Is there a general look? Loosely, yes, but there are plenty of examples of anomalies in that look. So it's not about, like you said, all skin folk are not our kinfolk. Everyone who has dark skin is not our people. See what I'm saying? So we have to understand what context we're having a conversation about. Right? Just that simple. What context? Are we talking about the societal understanding of what a black person is? Or are we talking about who the Hebrew Israelites are, who make up predominantly the people who are considered black or African American today? It's a seed line. It's a lineage. Being black is not a lineage. Being black is predicated upon your appearance. Being an Israelite is based on lineage, regardless of appearance. Two different things. It's where Negro onlys get crossed up at. They take being an Israelite and they take the societal understanding of being black, which, mind you, was totally is an invention of German white men, might I add. They've taken that and they've married them and made them one thing. They're not one thing. That has to be understood in order to intellectually engage in these types of conversations. Period.
So society perceives, because we have to understand that black, white, the concept of race is something that rules over our society and it was given to us, right? And it has nothing to do with patrilineage, like we determine who's an Israelite. That's not, we don't live in a world that thinks like that. We think like that because we've come into the paradigm of being a Hebrew Israelite, but the world doesn't think like that. So we have to make sure that we're speaking concisely and saying, oh, well, Bob Marley's not a black man. No, Bob Marley is certainly perceived in the society as a black man. But what you mean is patrilineally, he's not a Hebrew Israelite because his father them is from Britain. You see what I'm saying? Even though you got certain brothers running around Jamaica and some Chinese man that knocked the sister up. Now this dude, you know what I'm saying? But is he not Jamaican? I mean, he's from Jamaica, right? He grew up in the culture. But would we say he's an Israelite? No, right? You want to respond? Go ahead.
Yeah, let me break it down a different way than you guys. I mean, studying the Bible for 30 years, and right now I'm actually studying Hebrew. I'm learning Hebrew for the past couple of months. What I get to understand is whenever you're looking at the Bible, we got to be very, very careful, especially reading the King James Version, because a lot of the literature that comes into the stories pre 800 BC time period has a lot to do with literature, the Ugaritic text. is a lot in Psalms and Proverbs, and it's poetry. So a lot of the times when you go into the primary source of the Ugaritic, you'll find it saying, hey, this is an allegory, and so forth. But when you see the same story in the Bible, it's written like it's a real story. So it confuses us when we're doing that. But I want to say, though, that the story of the womb, the babies in the womb, it took me years to find a story that's similar. So there's a story in another culture with the babies fighting in the womb, and I found 3 of them. So when I found the stories, I said, okay, this is ancient Near East, and this is also a Southern European story where they're telling people of a story of people in the womb fighting and one developing a kingdom and develop just like in the Bible. So it begs to differ that this story is a part of what's called, I don't know if you're familiar with the term etiology. Are you familiar with that term?
Not familiar with that.
Etiology has to do with what's called foundation myth. Okay. So if you look in every culture, like, say for example, we look at Moses, right? We'll find a story about somebody in a boat like Moses in Mesopotamia.
What he means is Noah, the flood, right? There's a flood, so meaning there's certain stories that are shared similarly amongst different cultures. Like majority of cultures throughout the earth have a concept of a global flood. See what I'm saying? That's what they would call etiology, or the study of foundational myth. You got to point out.
I mean, well, that would just prove in a system.
It proves it because this is shared history.
Right, exactly.
The flood is shared history between Noah and his 3 sons who went to populate what all the people that we know on earth today. So it would be shared.
Isn't that something you would tell your children and then tell their children? Yeah, the whole world was flooded with water.
Yeah, and then it would vary over the course of time. There would be a variant. I would say the pure tradition would have been kept by us, right? Being that we are the ones that deal with the living God. So the other variants that we see are how it evolved over the course of time went to the other people.
Story, right? In Egypt, we'll find different stories with Zoroaster going up on a mountain. We found Hammurabi before Moses going up on a mountain to get two laws too. So you find these stories a lot in these cultures. And remember, in the Canaanite culture, you always had like different things. It's like there's a festival called the Masopeth Festival and the Zuku Festival. Those festivals is what Passover is. So
So here's why he's saying this, right? These festivals are what Passover is. I want to make sure everyone understands it. He's saying this because Passover is a specific harvest festival, and it ties into agricultural events. There are other people that commemorated this similar time period agriculturally outside of the Israelites, right? But we have a unique thing of our deliverance dealing with that. Other people celebrate in a similar time period or around the same time period, but they're just celebrating it for its agricultural significance. We have something historically that's attached to that, right? So when he says this is what Passover is, he's saying that there are other neighboring cultures of the Israelites who celebrate around the same time, but they're doing it for the harvest. Pay attention.
This is Canaan.
Okay, Canaan.
That's it.
So other Canaanites celebrate this. Harvest and agriculture was big amongst the inhabitants of Canaan. We're no different. But the difference is that our God delivered us from a captivity around this time period and commanded us to commemorate this, and this is the purpose of this. Now, most of our other holy days are overtly just in dealing with harvest and giving offering to our deity, to the Most High Yahweh, right? The only living God. But we have certain ones, i.e. Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Tabernacles. We have stuff like that that's to commemorate other things, right?
That's why I don't see there's a problem with Israelites having their own Passover and remixing it. It's not a big deal, but I'm just saying that the stories that we find in a lot of the Bible, when I'm studying the language now, is what we consider ancient literature. We shouldn't take it literal, because I don't believe you have 2 people in a womb. Maybe the foundation myth is to give Jacob, that person is writing from a Jacob angle. Let me give you a quick example you could check in the scriptures. The Sabbath. If I ask you where the Sabbath come from, you're going to tell me when God rested. Am I correct? When God rested while he made the world, he said, this is for you, the Sabbath.
I would say that's the principle.
Principle, right?
The Sabbath.
Right. But also in Deuteronomy and Exodus, you have a different angle where it tells you that because of Exodus and they being in slavery, I've given you. So it's 2 different. But what do we...
Yeah. Because the principle is there and then it kind of identifies it later as the principle comes from the creation. But we're given that because we're man, we need a day of rest. We will work tirelessly by the Egyptians, etc.
We look at it as two different writers writing at different times.
Yeah, that's
own goals.
Documentary hypothesis.
Yeah.
like I said. This is based off what they call the documentary hypothesis. That you have different scribal writers that wrote this, and they wrote in certain things predicated upon their understanding. That's how people believe. I partially adhere to the documentary hypothesis, but in and of itself has flaws that no one really fully subscribes to the documentary hypothesis. But we understand from a biblical perspective that scribes wrote this down during different periods of time.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is I gotta touch on something that you talked about. Yeah. That's what I'm doing right now. You talked about West Africans and the 12 tribes and so forth. I have a difficulty finding non-northern tribes in West Africa.
Okay.
People claiming Benjamin, claiming Judah. They always claim another tribe because of the Hamitic hypothesis, which I know you're familiar with.
Yes, sir.
So this is one of my favorite parts of this whole dialogue where he and I discuss this. I need everyone to pay attention because this is information that you're going to need to have when you interface with people who are Negro-only proponents. It's going to entirely bust the lid through the spirit and power of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai off of people saying the Northern Kingdom is not the Latinos, they're in Africa. This is going to bust that, right? No, Adam didn't rest. Come on, man. This guy D-Walk, he got to go in timeout, man. He be saying too much crazy stuff all the time.
So with the knowledge of the Hamitic hypothesis, why should we believe anybody in West Africa that claims that they're Israelite when there was no Bible in West Africa before the Portuguese?
That's a tremendous question. So, number one, we got to touch on why so many West Africans claim northern tribes. It's a very key. Y'all remember good old Harry? Y'all remember Harry Rosenberg, right? Harry Rosenberg comes on the scene and, yeah, the black people, they are the Israelites. But who are they? They're the northern tribes. Why? Because the white man's still the king and the priest. He still gets to control the rabbinical information. He still gets to rule. You niggas, y'all can come too since y'all figuring it out. But y'all these northern tribes, all the brothers, you'll be hard pressed to go to any place in West Africa where they're claiming northern tribe and not find yarmulkes on heads. Why? That's a symbol that something happened. The Jewish man, the rabbi came there, and he taught them that they were the northern tribes. And that was divisive. I'm going to tell you about something right in Uganda.
This is key now. I hope y'all paid attention. The people, the West Africans, who are claiming Northern Kingdom tribes, with the exception of the Yoruba, have all been converts to rabbinical Judaism and told they were Northern Kingdom tribes by white men. That's why they're claiming it. So the next Negro that goes and tells you the Northern Kingdom tribes are in Africa and X, Y, and Z is claiming this in Africa, you make sure to let them know that them same Negroes are Judaized, and the reason why they're saying it is because the white man told them that.
Just before, there's a group in Uganda. I forget that. Somebody look up Uganda Jews for me real quick.
And you know what? Not Cherry, but the other guy. Was it Cherry? One of them had a group go to Africa, and they tried to they're this group that Divine Prophet is a part of.
Yeah.
They went there to try to say that y'all is Jews now, and didn't accept it.
Exactly. When they accept, who came? When the white man came, here we go. Here's a yarmulke, everybody. Keep the Sabbath, all that, right? They came with that divisiveness, but they told them they were no. You know what I'm talking about? Look at it. Yeah, the Abudaya, that's in Uganda, right? So what happened is you had
There's video on this.
There's two different groups, but yeah, I did a video on this. But this Abudaya people, these, and this is going to be in the upcoming Israelite foreigners lectures that are coming most high willing soon. So these people, pay attention to about these people that were out of Uganda, right? And I'm gonna show y'all something, right? Matter of fact, because this is the same thing I showed when I did the video on it. We touched on this.
Nah, when did we do this video?
Like last year. Last year. But through the spirit, it hopped on me. Spirit hopped on me after I seen a particular music video. I said, damn, there's got to be Israelites in Uganda, and I'm going to show you. There was no one who rested. Yahweh Shai and the angels rested. There are southern tribes. There are Israelites in Africa. Don't get that twisted. But but majority are not.
Northern.
Well, the majority of people in Africa are not Israelites, right? And the majority of Israelites that are in Africa are Southern Kingdom, not Northern Kingdom. But there are Northern Kingdom there as well. Montana and watch this. So I'm gonna show y'all what did this for me. How I, through the Spirit of the Most High, I came to this conclusion that.
You sure you're not gonna get in the copyright?
No, I'm gonna mute it. So hold on, I want to try. I want to show y'all what did it. This music video is what led me to search out if there were Israelites in Uganda, and I found out they have one of the richest, more rich histories. So look, I seen these people dancing, right? You see this? They getting it in. I never seen Hamites dance like this in my whole life, right? So I'm watching this, right? Look at this. I'm watching this, and I'm going, I wonder where they at, where they doing this video. I figure they in the islands, right? The way they dancing, this look like Benjamin dancing, right? I figure they in the islands for sure, right? So look at that. Is that not how Benjamin danced? Hamites don't dance like that, right? Tell me this don't look like Benjamin. But then I see this flag with this chicken on it. And I'm a nigga, I know the flags, especially the Caribbean. I'm big on those flags. So I'm going, what the hell flag is that? Then I look it up. I found out it's Ugandan. So then I look up, are there Israelites in Uganda? Then I found out about these people that I'm talking about now. So now pay a little close attention.
Another one too. That came from America. You know, these ones is original Ugandans, right? So what happened was,
yes, Ashanti are Israelites, Levites.
There was a particular tribe had a military leader that rose up. He got a hold of a Bible somehow. He read the Bible. He said, "This is talking about us," right?
He came to the same conclusion that we came to. He read it and said, "This got to be us. This fits my people to a T."
We the Israelites, and we gonna believe the whole Bible too. Same way like how we do. We keep the laws. We believe in the Messiah, things of that nature, right?
We're not gonna reject the Messiah like rabbinical Jews do, which a lot of guys who are being Judaized and claiming Northern Kingdom tribes in West Africa are rejecting the Messiah.
Later on, after his death and things get watered down, in the 50s, Rabbi gets wind of it. He goes to Uganda. Now all them niggas is Orthodox Jews. You see what I'm saying? So,
except for a segment of them that rebelled against that. It's about 1,000 of them that rebelled against that, right? Well, we believe those are Israelites that are over there in Uganda.
A lot of that, we have to understand why brothers is doing this, and some of our brothers in West Africa is doing this, is because of rabbinic infiltration. You see what I'm saying? So it's all divisive, and then you have brothers who would just believe, oh yeah, he said he's from Naphtali, or he's this tribe or that tribe. A lot of it has to do with
when
Uganda?
when you look up Jews in Africa, the third image that's gonna pop up is a brother. It's probably a brother is in a pink yarmulke. Pink yarmulke.
See that? What does this mean? I mean the rabbi came there. They're not wearing. An Israelite is not wearing a yarmulke on his own merit. That's a Jewish invention.
That made them wear a hat.
This one, yeah, they made them wear a hat.
Yeah, the heathen made us wear the hat. Man.
See that? So if you see guys that's dressing like this, you know the white man's been there and infiltrated their understanding. That's what's happened. Look at these guys. Look at them right there with the shawls and all that, dressing like an Orthodox Hasidic Jew. Why? Because the white man got there and has indoctrinated them. So we can't take what they're saying as truth because they've been indoctrinated. They're compromised.
that. Now, on the flip side, we have a video we did years ago called Northern Kingdom Tribes in Africa, because you have, like, we had a brother, a Nigerian brother who had came up to the camp, and he said, yeah, my grandmother told me I was a Levite, right? So a lot of times, when you have West African brothers who heard this in their family tradition, they're claiming Southern tribes. But the ones who have been Judaized, they're claiming Northern tribes. You have to watch that.
You have to watch that. When they hear it from their family tradition, they're Southern tribes. But when they are Judaized, they're Northern tribes all of a sudden. Pay attention to that.
Because who are they getting their information from? I'm gonna rely more on, well, what is your family saying going back, rather than, okay, the white man came here and told all you niggas you were this and that, right? So he told me that. But there is a reckoning of what? Certain, when you look from the biblical perspective, certain of the Northern Kingdom tribes that resorted to Jerusalem after the two kingdoms split, right? In the New Testament, you have a woman named Anna, the prophetess Anna that's on the scene. Say she's from the tribe of Asher. So you can see examples of certain individuals, even of Judith in the Apocrypha, tribe of Simeon, who come, right? Then you have people like the Yoruba, and then going into the Yoruba thing, and people with the hypothesis that Yoruba goes back to the name of the king Jeroboam, who was the king of Ephraim, the king of the northern kingdom. So that's the thing with that northern kingdom thing is I believe the majority of brothers over there are only claiming it because of Judaic imagery. That's it. That's it.
All right. How do you rectify the whole? Hold on. How do you rectify that? All these people are you know what? Let's go back to something that you talked about earlier. The 70 AD stuff. Do you take that literal, that 70 AD, and about them going into West Africa? All right, 70 AD. What happened actually 70 AD? Because
this is also an important questions that he's getting ready to ask. No, the crew are not Israelites. Remember how you asked me, you kept asking me, and I finally looked them up. The crew are not Israelites. Let me get now there's not a lot of information on Negro land out there. Let me get where the woman went. We fled. We had a place prepared. Then also get me Micah.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful. The water all praise you. How about Shemi? I was shy. But pay attention to these the next few questions, or how I answer this question, because it's important and it's good for clarification purposes, because some Israelites just repeat what they heard and they haven't went and researched and studied for themselves to be able to appropriately answer this question when it's posed to them, and then it discredits the entire movement when you don't know how to answer this properly from a historically accurate perspective, and you skip steps. We don't leave Israel and go directly into West Africa. That's not what happens. This was a gradual process that occurred over the course of centuries. This has to be understood. You got what I need?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Revelation chapter 12, verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God.
So we fled into the wilderness of Africa. In Africa, there was a place prepared for us. That's West Africa, a place prepared for us from God. Read.
Come. It says that they should feed her there 1,203 score days.
So we'd be in that wilderness for 1,260 years, prophetically. Right? That was about the course of time where we was in West Africa before things started getting real tumultuous. Right? Go ahead.
Micah 4:10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth.
Table of Kings, you already know in part, but what's crazy is who's running House of Consciousness? A Latino. That's the part I never want to get away from. The person who runs House of Consciousness is Latino. Go ahead.
Be in pain, and this is Micah 4:10. Be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail.
Read on.
For now shalt thou go forth.
Just like Revelation 12 and Micah 4, it's talking about giving birth in travail. Notice that, right? It's showing you that these are parallel prophecies. Go ahead.
Thou shalt go forth out of the city.
And you go out of Jerusalem. Read.
And thou shalt dwell in the fields.
In the field. The field is Africa. Read.
And thou shalt go even to Babylon. There shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem
So you would
thee.
go from the field to Babylon. You go from West Africa to America. There we'd be delivered. This is what we'd be saved from. Read.
From the hand of thine enemies.
Right, see that? Okay, so you asked about the Kron tribe, not the crew. Okay, the crew are also Hamites. Okay, so the crew and the Kron are different, both Hamites. Beautiful. All praise to the Most High. But yeah, so these are the prophecies about us going into Africa, right? So pay attention to this.
hear a lot of brothers say that they went into West Africa and so forth, right? Can you show me evidence from anybody at all? If you could use your text that says that the people in the war, the war between the Jews and the Roman Empire, that from 66 AD to 72 AD, that they went into West Africa.
Okay, no, and I'll explain why. We didn't directly go in there, right? A lot of times, brothers,
So yes, we did not go into West Africa from 70 AD.
as well, are from the uneducated stance that they believe we just went from Israel and we just crossed the whole continent. We crossed the Sahara Desert out and just was in West Africa, 71 AD. Here we are popping up a civilization too, because a lot of civilizations, would it be fair for me to say that a lot of
Remember what I said about the civilizations earlier. Remember that. And he went into culture and metal. Here's where it's coming back, and it's coming full circle through the spirit. Pay attention.
empires, be it Songhai, Ga, Iwe, 700 AD and on is when we see these things start to manifest.
Pay attention.
You know what? I'll give you that.
Okay.
700 AD and on. This is through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. We got to understand the historical aspect of this. We leave out of Israel, and then we don't see civilizations popping up in West Africa till 700 AD. And he gives me that, right? He doesn't dispute this. Historically, you're going to see this line up. Even if there was something earlier or loosely something earlier, we don't see all these empires, Songhai, Iwe, Ga, etc. They don't really start popping up and thriving until post 700 AD. Why is this? Because there was a people that were gradually migrating across the Sahara, across North Africa, into West Africa. These were the people who were just expelled from Canaan, who were the Israelites, the Canaanites, the Syrophoenicians, etc. The people of Afar, etc. Right? Which are various Hamitic and Shemitic peoples.
Yeah, but technically speaking, when you look at Ouagadougou and the Nok culture and Yoruba, they go way back.
Okay.
But I mean, we could have evidence of that. But let's just say that you're correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, meaning it took time for that migration to happen. We didn't just go from one place to another. First place, which Israel was, some people surmise, some historians have said there was more Israelites in Egypt during that time than there was even in Israel, right? So Egypt was a primary,
and in Rome too. They in the Roman Empire, upwards in Europe, and in Africa. They believe there was more in Africa and Europe than there was in Israel at that time. You can find that in the Hellenistic civilization in the Jews.
for Israel, right? We see the oldest synagogue in the world is where? It's in Alexandria. You see what I'm saying? So even though you have some fools of the community who believe it's in Greece, know the oldest one, and it's got a dedication there to substantiate with the ruler at the time to prove what? It's in Egypt. It's in Alexandria. So understanding that we went into Egypt, North Africa, some went west, east. Prophetically, we're supposed to go into the four winds. So we all didn't just go to any one place. But I would say predominantly a lot of us went into Africa, some went into Europe, some went into Asia, Arabia, what have you. Because we see who killed Muhammad. They said it was a Jewish woman that killed Muhammad. You see what I'm saying? This is before the white man had made his conversion, Kagabun, etc. So we went all four ways. So over the course of time, it was a migration that happened. Of course, we know that there was certain, what am I thinking about? Certain geopolitical things that were occurring, i.e. Arab conquest, right? European conquest. And what's happening? People are getting pushed further west, up until you hit the damn coast. You can't go no damn where. You see what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a quick question and let you get the mic back. So you're saying at the 66 to 72 AD war, what we call the 70 AD war, you're saying that some of them went into North Africa. Am I correct?
Yes, North Africa.
North Africa, they migrate periodically to West Africa. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Would you, all right, let's say that your biblical text teach you that Jesus existed, right? All right. Did those Jews that were warring, did they believe in that Jesus?
Some did. Some did, not all of them. Not all.
All right. You want to elaborate on that? Or
Well, of course, during that time period, you had certain that accepted him, certain people that were a part of what you would call his sect or his following. Then you had a lot that did not. But in the text, when he said it's going to come a time where y'all going to get kicked up out of here. And he said the guys that don't believe me ain't going to flee in time. They're going to be stuck up there. You see what I'm saying? So that's how it relates to that. But certainly not everybody was an adherent to or a believer in Christ.
All right. So 70 AD, 66 AD, Judeans were told by the Romans, we can't use your coins anymore. That was one of the reasons why they were pissed off. We're not going to use none of your coins, your currency. We're only going to use Roman currency. We only want y'all to start speaking more Latin than speaking y'all Hebrew craziness, right? Pissed off the Jews. They started going over the grave sites and violating the grave sites of the Jews. And one of the things that Josephus wrote about was that there was a building that they were building that had a lot of people working there. So
like the soldier I'm on, powerful precept, I'm going to read it. This Maccabees, which has immense historical information. It says, 2 Maccabees 1:1, the brethren, the Jews that be at Jerusalem and in the land of Judea, wish unto the brethren, the Jews that are throughout Egypt, health and peace. So we were deep in Egypt.
Yeah.
66
Go ahead.
Why do you think Yahushua could flee
into Egypt? Because we had, people go, oh, how could he hide in there?
we've been had brothers and sisters.
Yeah, so yeah, he didn't go and just hide amongst the Egyptians. He went, and I know we utilize that rhetoric all the time. How can he go hide in Egypt if he was white? I know that's rhetoric that we use, but it's bad rhetoric because Edomites went and hid in Egypt, and this is documented, right? But he went amongst an Israelite community in Egypt that was not subject to the rule of Herod. That's the point. Herod was the tetrarch that had power over Judea and Edom and Samaria. He didn't have power in Egypt. So they went to the nearest place that was not subject to the rule of Herod, where Herod was killing babies and committing what they call infanticide.
It was no, no jobs for them. So they was pissed off. And plus the Romans put on more taxes on the Jews, right?
Yes, like Pagayala is saying, Apollos was born in Egypt, and Apollos, scholars believe that Apollos was a member of the SICARRI. All right? So showing you that when they try to say the SICARRI were not messianic, Apollos is a top apostle and believed to be a SICARRI.
So, the Jews get pissed off. The Jews are kicking the Romans' butt. They're kicking their butt. And at that time period, the king who was in charge of the Roman Empire died. So Vespasian and other people went to Rome, and they weren't paying attention to the war. So the Jews are kicking.
That's true. This is what happened. He's on point as far as the history up to this point.
But beating up the Romans. The Romans eventually brought the fleets in and beat up the Jews. All right. Based on the information we have, right? The Jews that we know in Judea, and this is actually going to be my book. I laid out the primaries and everything. They actually went up because as of 6 AD, Judah was considered, the residential area of Judah was no longer the biblical version of Judah, right? It included Idumea, which is Edom, and it included all the way up to Galilee. That was
all the way up to Galilee, Capernaum, right? What you see, how was I going to Capernaum? That's far. That's all being considered Judea, and that's into Naphtali and Zebulun's land, right? So that wouldn't properly be from our perspective Judea, but from the political perspective at that time, it was. We have to pay attention to predominantly how we view things, but then we have to know how the other nations in the outside world viewed and classified certain things. That's why when they say that we're Canaanites, we know we're not Canaanites, but we know that from the anthropological perspective, they classify us as that. We have to know that so we don't get all messed up, right? We have to be able to engage from an academic perspective without getting emotional.
Syria, that was considered right. That all of that was considered Judah. So when somebody said they are a Jew, or which is from the word Judah, they don't necessarily have to be a person who is from the quote unquote tribe is Judean. Right. All right. So now I say that to say this. In 115 AD, they had another war, the Kittus War. The Kittus War. So, and by the way, the people that scattered at 70 AD. There's evidence written that they. I'm good, man. You good? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, bro. We all right. I'm good, man. We fit, bro. We ain't no lazy black people here, man. Right. So now.
Just the way he said it. We're not no lazy black people.
We all right. They're built for this, man. What are you talking about? These are soldiers. All right. So now, at 70.
Speaking of soldiers, look at the walk. Face has not changed.
No, I told you.
We're 3 hours into this. Face is not changed.
The evidence says that the people actually moved up to Galilee, a place called Pella. Right? All right. So now we know where they went at 70 AD. They didn't go to North Africa, but they did have people in Egypt at the time. And the reason why there were people in Egypt is because when Alexander, if you go to Joel 3 and 6, they talk about, I don't know if your camp teaches that this is the white man and all that stuff. This is something that actually happened in history. What is written in Joel 3 happened when Alexander confiscated the Judeans and brought them, or the Israelites, and brought them over to Alexandria, Egypt, where they gave them the port, right? But he locked them up. Alexander locked them up. When he died, the Ptolemies took over and he freed them. They gave them what's called Alexander, which was a port city, because the Jews were into money and they had money and they used to do port and trade and all that.
So like he said, there's Israelites in Egypt. We just read the precept, 2 Maccabees 1:1, Israelites in Egypt. But now he's trying to say that the Israelites, they went to Galilee, they didn't go to Egypt. But if I got people in Egypt, isn't it logical I go there? That some, I'm not saying everyone went there, but some went there and there were some that were already there. Again, you got to pay close attention to what the brother's saying. Because you'll see the inconsistency, the selective inconsistency when it occurs. You got something?
Where is he saying that the in 70 AD, there are people fled
to Galilee.
So north.
Yeah, north.
Okay. I had some pulled up, but
All right, now,
Let me know.
115 AD, the North Africans who are Jews, who are in North Africa, get into another war with the Roman Empire. Again, they're beating the Roman Empire up. They're beating the Roman Empire up so much, ladies and gentlemen, that they would skin the people, the Romans, take their skin off and put it on like his clothes, and they would also eat some of the people. They were cannibalistic.
He's saying that the Israelites were being cannibalistic, which that could have happened.
All right. So you know
We were going off.
history. All right. So what the Romans did is they came to that region and they killed off all the Jews in North Africa and killed off all the Jews in Egypt.
how do you go about?
Now watch, hold on. He says that, but watch.
That's what their records say.
That's what their records say.
Of course they're gonna say that.
Which he's understanding that, and they couldn't have, but they probably killed some of us.
I don't know if it's true or not. All right. So now,
It's how the white man wrote it. We know this is not true, but it's how the white, because there were Jews elsewhere in the world that still exist and persist to exist. We don't even have, it's 115. Do we have the Sanhedrin at this point? The later Sanhedrin? We don't even have none of that at this point. Substantiated. So they couldn't have killed all of us.
now I'm trying to figure out which Jews now at this point would have gone to West Africa. But before I give you the mic, I'm going to go to another war that the Jews fight, right? Because remember, if we believe what you guys teach or what one was teaching, that 1 million people went into West Africa after 70 AD and they got scattered, right. Listen to this carefully now. At 135, this is why I asked you if they believed in Jesus. And you gave me the right answer. You said some of them. 132 AD, there's another war, but this time they said, the Jews said that this guy is the Messiah, Simon Bar Kokhba. Simon Bar Kokhba is beating up the Romans. They call him the Messiah. Now,
The people were believing Simon was the Messiah. Yeah.
and if these people believe Jesus is the Messiah, how is it 70 years later now you coming and saying this guy's the Messiah? It sounds like this Jesus guy is a fraud, but hey, that's another story for another time. So
Because some people were believing this. Some people believe Onias was the Messiah. You have various people who they thought were revolutionaries and were the Messiah, but Yahushua, who they call Christ, Jesus Christ, that's the Messiah.
now this guy gets beat up 135. They document 500,000 Jews were killed. Where are these Jews coming from if they evacuated or left the city? All right, I'm gonna stop right there.
All of them didn't evacuate or leave the city. They were still around. So a lot did, but they were still around. I'm gonna talk about it though.
Yeah,
I'm answering it like he just asked me. I already answered this question, so like it.
Certainly didn't all, and that's another false understanding that everyone evacuated 70 AD because of 115 and like you said in the 130s. There was some that stayed around, like you said, some went up to Galilee, right? So everyone did not flee. Like, we can't speak so absolutely all the time, right? And that's what brothers, Hebrews, everybody got to understand. We can't speak so absolutely, and the brothers who aren't speaking absolutely, for those who are hearing them, can't just assume in absolutes, right? But it's good to ask questions. Are you speaking in absolutes?
Oh, so like yeah, read that precept.
Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 12. A third part of these shall die with the pestilence,
A third part's gonna die due to disease. Go ahead.
and with the famine shall they be consumed in the midst of thee.
And famine. Read.
And a third part shall fall by the sword
And
round about
a
thee.
third is gonna be killed. Go ahead.
And I will scatter a third part into all the winds.
Then 1/3 is gonna leave. So only a third of us went into all the winds. Part of that's Africa, part of that's Europe, part of that's Asia, part of that's south into Arabia. Right? That was only a third part. A third part died. A third part was scattered. Go ahead.
And I will draw a sword after them.
And the third part that was scattered, a sword was drew after them. Keep going.
Verse 13. Thus shall mine anger be accomplished, and I will cause my fury to rest upon them, and I will be comforted, and they shall know that I, the Lord Yahweh, have spoken it in my zeal, when I have accomplished my fury in them.
Keep going.
Moreover, I will make thee waste and a reproach among the nations that are round about thee, in the sight of all that pass by.
That happened. Go ahead.
So shall it be a reproach and a taunt, and instruction and astonishment unto the nations that are round about thee, when I shall execute judgment in thee in anger and in fury and in furious rebukes. I, the Lord, have spoken it.
There's something that's missing here. He takes a third, puts it in his girdle, comes out, and then cuts it. Where's that at?
That's earlier.
Okay, get that.
Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 3, it says, I'm going to start verse 2. Thou shalt burn with fire a third part in the midst of the city.
See that? That's the ones that died in Jerusalem. Go ahead.
When the days of the siege are fulfilled, and thou shalt take a third part and smite about it with a knife.
Then the third is smitten with the knife. Right? Go ahead.
And a third part thou shalt scatter in the wind.
You scatter a third part in the wind, Reid.
And I will draw a sword after them.
A sword comes after it, right? The other war, like he said, a war that happened in North Africa. That's the sword coming after it. He's proven the prophecy. Read.
Thou shalt also take thereof a few in number and bind them in thy skirts.
There's a few that you keep, right? Read.
Then take of them again.
Then take that few in number. Go ahead.
And cast them into the midst of the fire.
And put them back in the fire. So some are going to escape, but then they're going back into the fire. That's like the SICARRI and things of that nature. They were able to get around certain stuff, but then eventually we went back into the fire anyway, right? There was no way around that, but some of us did escape. Read.
It says, and burn them in the fire, for thereof shall a fire come forth into all the house of Israel.
See that? There was no way to escape this. Everyone got it one way or another.
No, we can't speak in absolutes. Because there's nothing that even suggests an absolute here, right? I can say a lot. I can even say majority. I can say in general, but that doesn't account for every single individual. You see what I'm saying? So that's what has to be understood. A lot of us, the infrastructure of what Judea was, what Jerusalem was, etc., ceased from existing. It's not the same anymore, right? There's guys around. You can have a white man going to, or any other people going conquest a place. There's going to be some lingerers around, you see what I'm saying? But they're going to change it. Well, Harlem, they're trying to, Brooklyn. Man, in Brooklyn, man, God, even it's not the same Brooklyn it was the first time I came to New York, which only 5 years. It's not even the same, right? But it's still people around. It's still people that, didn't go. You see what I'm saying? And they're changing a lot of other places as well. So that's gentrification, right? What's interesting is, matter of fact, who got, give me first, who got Red Book? First Maccabees 1 and 38. Let me go this real quick. Let me first Maccabees 1 and 38 real quick, right? Because we see how this process began to happen even before these wars occurred. This process began to happen during the time of the Maccabean revolt, right? Going even all the way back there. This is when the infiltration comes. You see what I'm saying? You got 38? Go ahead.
This is the book of First Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 38. Insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem
Reid,
fled because of them.
So they ran out because of the Greek. Here come the satanic Greeks. You see,
so we've been running out. We've been fleeing Jerusalem since going back to that time.
Of them, right? Who just was, I mean, when you read the Maccabees, you read the Maccabees before, it talk about him so damn bad. Him and Nicanor. They're so evil because of the level of oppression that they brought on the Jews, right? Go ahead.
Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers.
So here come the Greek man come to live there, right, Reid?
And became strange to those that were born in her.
So now it's strange. Now it's hometown don't even look the same no more, right, Reid?
And her own children left her.
That's right. And the people that were indigenous to that place or have been in that place, now they're gone. You see what I'm saying? So this is a process that began to happen then. There's an important book. Hebrew Israelites, anybody get this just to understand. I'm going to tell you who need to get this book the most, though, is Christians, okay? It's called The Hellenistic Civilization and the Jews. The Hellenistic Civilization is a very important book. I love to use it against Christians because they don't understand the historical significance of the Jewish diaspora, what they call the Jewish diaspora. They don't understand that how many Jews went into Ephesus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Thessalonica. But this book has the primaries and documentation in regards to tens of thousands of these, and this happens going up into the Maccabean time. So go back to the Greek rulership. You see what I'm saying? You have to know this because it stands to historically. If you don't understand the historical climate of the Bible, you can pick this up and make it whatever you want. But the historicity has to be important. There's a scripture, right? I heard you hint into it, which you may not know you hinted to it. It's Ezekiel 28. It's where people get that Satan was this angel that could sing really good, right? It's Ezekiel 28, right? Get Ezekiel 28 and 1. People do this, right? But I'm going to show you they are totally ignoring the history, and this is a man in history. And Bible believers need to know this and not make it Satan because it helps the historical validity of Scripture, right? So read that, 28 and 1.
This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 28, verse 1.
This is the chapter, right? But they go early and they're late in the chapter. They don't start at the top where the context begins. Read.
The word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, saying to the prince of Tyrus.
The who?
The prince of Tyrus.
Tyrus is a place, right or wrong?
Yep.
See that? This is talking about Ithobaal III. But if you believe it's talking about Satan, you're erasing history. Go ahead. Keep that.
Keep that scripture right there. We're going to get into that real quick.
Like I said, though, it's talking about Ithobaal the third. People try to make this Satan, make it something mythical, but that's talking about Ithobaal the third. So it was very important to the historical, again, validity and authenticity of Scripture. It's good to know that information. A lot of people don't know that information. You got to know who that is. That is Ithobaal the third, the prince of Tyrus or Tyre. Right? It's good to know this type of stuff. Let me keep going.
Now, before I go though, I brought up 3 different wars, and I'm trying to ask, how do we get to even in Africa and be able to transfer and even come to West Africa at all? I'm of the mindset that it's really a farce. I'm just gonna tell you up front. I don't believe that the Judeans in the city, period, who were even warring were even the original Judeans. Okay. And the reason why I say that, because the Babylonian captivity has been retold wrong. It has been retold in a wrong way. Okay. There's a tablet called the Al Yahuda tablets, right?
Give me Jeremiah and the people who are still left in Judah, because it's gonna bust them on this. You know what I'm talking about?
I'll find it.
Because you remember Jeremiah didn't have to go into captivity.
Let me see. Okay. They're left in Judah?
Yeah, it should be in Jeremiah, because Jeremiah doesn't go into captivity, and there was people that were there that were still doing base level jobs, because it debunks this entire stance.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to look.
All right, don't worry about it. We're gonna find it. Give us 1 second. Watch this. You still ain't found it?
This.
Oh, yeah, this is good. This is good. Mm-hmm. See this? This is amazing, actually. This is exactly what we need. Let's actually start. Start at the top of Jeremiah 40. We're going to go ahead. Go ahead.
Jeremiah chapter 40, verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord Yahweh. After that, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had let him go from Ramah, when he had taken him being bound in chains among all that were carried away captive of Jerusalem and Judah, which were carried away captive unto Babylon. And the captain...
So he has Jeremiah in custody after... Read that last part again.
It says... when he had taken him being bound in chains among all that were carried away captive of Jerusalem and Judah.
So he had Jeremiah among the captives, right? Read.
Which were carried away captive unto Babylon.
And they brought them all the captives that were carried away to Babylon, right? Read.
And the captain of the guard took Jeremiah and said unto him, the Lord thy God hath pronounced this evil upon this place.
Well, so the captain took Jeremiah and said, yeah, your God, Yahweh, he pronounced this evil, right? Read.
Now Yahweh hath brought it and done according as he hath said, because ye have sinned against the Lord and have not obeyed his voice. Therefore this thing is come upon you.
Read on.
And now, behold, I loose thee this day from the chains which were upon thine hand.
Jeremiah, you're being freed out of your chains. Read.
If it seem good unto thee to come with me to Babylon.
You're free from your chains. If you want, you could come with me to Babylon. Read.
Come, and I will look well unto thee.
If you come to Babylon, we're going to treat you good. We read about them doing this to Daniel, right? They treated Daniel good. Jeremiah was offered this same thing, right? Read.
But if it seem ill unto thee to come with me into Babylon, forbear.
You ain't got to. Read.
Forbear. Behold, all the land is before thee, whether it seemeth good and convenient for thee to go.
Jeremiah, you can go wherever you want. He's being taken out of chains. Jeremiah, you're free to go wherever the hell you want because you're the prophet that said this was going to happen. Read.
Now, while he was not yet gone back, he said, go back also to Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, whom the king of Babylon hath made governor over the cities.
Over what?
Over the cities.
Over what cities?
Over the cities of Judah.
Of what?
Cities of Judah.
Of Judah. So there was a Babylonian who was governing over the cities of Judah. Read.
And dwell with him among the people, or go wheresoever it seemeth convenient unto thee to go. So the captain of the guard gave him victuals and a reward, and let him go.
Gave him some money, gave him some food. Read.
Then went Jeremiah unto Gedaliah, the son of...
So he goes to the governor that's set up over us. So there is a heathen that's over our land at this point, that's overseeing us. Read.
The son of Ahikam to Mizpah, and dwelt with him among the people that were left in the land.
That were dwelt among who?
The people that were left in the land.
So there were there were Israelites in Israel still. So he's getting ready, as we're going to see, he's going to forward a theory that the Israelites were taken into Babylon and never went back to Israel. That's what he's going to say. But according to biblical records and historical records that we're going to get into in a second, there were still Israelites in the land that never even went into the Babylonian captivity. Right? The same way there are Israelites that came to this Babylon, but most of us came to Babylon, but some of us stayed in West Africa. The same thing. Keep going.
Okay. It says, now when all the captains of the forces were which were in the fields, even they and their men, heard that the king of Babylon had made Gedaliah the son of Ahikam governor in the land, and had committed unto him men and women and children, and of the poor of the land. The
poor Israelites were there still. It was really the middle class and the upper class that was taken into captivity. The poor Israelites, they stayed. It was the point of getting the kings and all that. Because those were the people really doing the most wickedness, truthfully. Right? Even though there were righteous men taken there too, Daniel, Ezekiel, etc. Right? But go ahead.
Of them that were not carried away captive.
Of them what?
Which were not carried away captive.
They weren't carried away captive, but what were they? They were subjugated. still, right? The same way you had people, Israelites that were left in West Africa, they weren't carried away captive, but the white man still colonized and subjugated them and raped, robbed, and murdered them, and the blood diamond came later, etc., right? Read.
Of them that were not carried away captive to Babylon. Then they came to Gedaliah, to Mizpah, even Ishmael the son of Nethaniah, and Johanan, the sons of Korah, and Sariah the son of Tehumith, and the sons of Ephi the Notaphite, and Jezaniah the son of Maakathite, they and their men. And Gildiah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan swear unto them and to their men, saying, Fear not to serve the Chaldeans, dwell in the land, and serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you.
All right. So basically, sit here but serve the king of Babylon. Go ahead.
As for me, behold, I will dwell at Mizpah to serve the Chaldeans, which shall come unto us. But ye gather ye wine and summer fruits and oil, and put them in your vessels, and dwell in your cities that ye have taken. Likewise, when all the Jews that were in Moab, and among the Ammonites, and in Edom, and that were in all the countries, heard that the king of Babylon had left a remnant of Judah,
There was a remnant of the southern kingdom that stayed back. Go ahead.
and that he had set over them Gedaliah the son of Ahikam the son of Shaphan, even all the Jews returned out of all places whither they were driven, and came to the land of Judah. So the Jews that were that's a super cut, because even the Jews that weren't even in Israel, that were in Edom, Moab, they went to Israel.
So there was more now there, because what does that show too? That you had Israelites living outside of Israel at this time in Edom. So then, you know, when they try to go, well, Yahushua was healing people in Edom. Well, you had Jews that live in Edom, nigga. We been living there. But then some of us came back from Edom, from Moab, from Ammon, and came back to Israel to be with our brothers that stayed behind. And were subjugated to the Babylonians remotely, as opposed to having to serve them in Babylon. Read.
It says, even all the Jews returned out of all places whither they were driven, and came to the land of Judah, to Gedaliah, unto Mizpah, and gathered wine and summer fruits very much. That's it on that, or keep going?
That's pretty much it, right? So I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, and then we're gonna get the history, right? From the extra biblical history.
Shows when the Jews went into Babylon, because
It's a Babylonian tablet, right?
right. And everybody needs to get that too. Al Yahuda, look up the El Gidi family and the Marasha tablets. What it does, it documents what happened with Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar never really had a beef with the Jews. The problem was, I think it was the king Zedekiah, was it? No, not
Zedekiah, and then later Manasseh. Or no, Manasseh first, then Zedekiah.
Zedekiah was the
And Jeconiah.
that he had to go there and beat up. One of the not Hezekiah. I think was it Zedekiah? Is one of them after Josiah? Jeconiah, right? All right.
Because Jeconiah, he was the last one to really go in there.
Right. So anyway, Nebuchadnezzar never really had a problem.
So just so you understand, Jeconiah's ration tablets, they have amongst the Babylonian archaeology proof that they were feeding food rations to Jeconiah. So Jeconiah is the king in question.
The problem is, when he was living in Babylon, you had Jews already living in Babylon, right? So now, what do we do with the fact that when we look at the documents that the Jews wrote, the real Judeans, they wrote these things. They said that they was living in that area, and they themselves owned slaves, because you know in the Bible it talks about them having slaves and so forth. Are they being slaves, by the way? They own what's called income producing property. Now, the Judeans, according to what scholarship says, Bob Beckin, he says that some of them probably went back. Some of them even mentioned in the writings that they want to go back to Miss Jerusalem, but they never went. So we really don't have any documentation saying that the Judeans went back like what the Bible says.
Okay, well, let's say they didn't. Let's go here to the non-biblical sources, right? That's why I just had them read what we read about. There were Israelites that stayed there. Watch this. Okay, Jeconiah's ration tablets describing ration orders for a captive king of Judah identified with King Jeconiah have been discovered during excavations in Babylon in the royal archives of Nebuchadnezzar. One of the tablets refers to the food rations as Yaukenu, king of the land of Judah, right? Which is Jeconiah, which is the transliteration from Hebrew to the Akkadian of Jeconiah. Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian forces returned 588-86 BCE and rampaged through Judah, leaving clear archaeological evidence of destruction in many towns and settlements there. The clay or ostraka from this period, is this it? No. From this period referred to as the Lachish letters, right? The Lachish letters is the archaeology. Jeconiah's ration tablets, Lachish letters. These are the archaeology. Were discovered during excavations. One, which was probably written by the commander at Lachish from an outlying base, describes how the signal fires from nearby towns were disappearing, and may my lord be apprised that we, watching the fire signals of Lachish according to all the signs which my lord hath given, because we cannot see Azaqua, archaeological finds from Jerusalem testify that virtually the whole city within the walls was burnt to rubble, which is Jeremiah 14:2. The Jerusalem, Judah get a language there, blackened to the ground. This is what it's talking about. They burnt our city down.
Nehemiah 1:3.
It's a precept for that, right? Which talks about it from afterwards, right? Archaeological excavations and surveys have enabled the population of Judah. So according to archaeology, the population of Judah before the Babylonian destructive to be calculated with a high degree of confidence to be approximately 75,000. Taking different biblical numbers of exiles at the highest 20,000. This would mean that 25% of the population have been deported. So even if what he's saying is true and none of us came back from Babylon,
there's still a
75% of us were still there. That's the key point, right?
Because these people come.
And that's according to archaeology. This is extra biblical. And then we just showed the Bible coincided with that through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Now watch this.
To live. How do we know this? We have what's called the MASHARAH files. The MASHARAH files now shows them continually living their family, like your children carrying on the same tradition and living there. And these people control the banking system and trade and all that stuff in Babylon. And in fact, they had different towns. Their town was called Judah town. That's what it was called. Just to say it's the people from Judah. So at the end of the day, those people continued to live in Judah, and in fact, when the return happened in 1948, some of those Iraqi Jews returned to.
Yeah, which is totally convoluted, but this is the point. This is the source. The Bible unearthed archaeology's new vision of ancient Israel and the origins of its sacred text, right? So that's where these archaeological records are. That 75% of Judah was still in Judah. So even what he's saying is totally out the window. But with that, we're gonna close up this installment. We should finish the next installment. We still have 50 minutes. We got through a lot though today.
No, we got
through a lot. It's not as much to stop on like it is with because we're reacting to a video I'm in. So I'm saying a lot of stuff I want to say anyway.
We probably going through like an hour and changes some footage.
Yeah, easy. So we'll probably finish part 3. Maybe tomorrow, if not tomorrow, Thursday. We're probably gonna do Situation Room tomorrow on Public Enemies. But yeah, so with that, y'all, appreciate it. We're going to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so in the name of His only begotten Son, who the world calls Christ, Yahweh Shai. And we say Shalom.
Shalom.